Don't miss the awesome Naruto stories my sister creates. Her last channel was hacked, so to stay in the loop, please subscribe to her new channel. It would mean a lot to her, and you won't regret it. Dear Naruto Lemon fans, I'm thrilled to invite all of you to my Boosty channel, where you can enjoy exclusive Naruto Lemon scenes in a comfortable and supportive community. Choose from various subscription tiers, from Mini Lemon to God Lemon, and gain access to unique content tailored just for our fans. Plus, subscribers to over Naruto Lemon and God Lemon will receive special mentions in my videos. Support my channel and dive deeper into the world of Naruto today. Dare! Chapter 1, Tragedy in Konoha. The rays of the setting sun barely touched the old roofs of Konoha's houses, painting them in fiery orange tones. Naruto walked along the streets of the village, trying to avoid the gaze of passers-by. His face had his usual calm look, but inside everything was seething. Every whisper behind his back, every sidelong glance from the villagers seemed like knives cutting into his wounded heart. Demon, monster, beast, the words he had heard since early childhood had long become commonplace for him. But even after so many years, he could not get used to this hatred. He was only 10 years old, but in the eyes of those around him, he was the embodiment of evil. Today was a particularly bad day. A group of seniors from the academy mocked him in front of everyone, and then beat him half to death, accusing him of stealing training equipment. He didn't fight back, didn't defend himself, it was useless anyway. Even if he tried to fight back, he would immediately be accused of a demon attacking innocent children. His feet took him to the edge of the village, to an old bridge that led into the forest. Naruto always found a little peace here. He sat down on the cold ground, wrapped his arms around his knees, and stared at the horizon that was slipping away into the distance. Why me, he thought. Bitterness and despair rolled in waves. It seemed as if nature itself had turned its back on him. Suddenly he felt a strange excitement in his chest, as if something or someone was watching him. You're giving up again, huh? A voice said in his head. Naruto flinched. It was Kurama, the nine-tailed demon fox sealed within his body. Ever since Naruto learned of its existence, their conversations had been rare. Kurama was usually silent, but in moments of extreme despair, he would sometimes break his silence. Leave me alone, Naruto whispered quietly, not expecting the fox to actually hear him. You're pathetic, Kurama continued. They hate you because they're afraid. Afraid of what they don't understand. Afraid of me. As if that makes me feel any better. Naruto clenched his fists. You think I don't know? You think I don't understand why they're treating me like this? But what can I do? I'm just a kid. Kurama fell silent. For the first time in a long time, there was something closer to sympathy in his voice than contempt. You can do more than you think, boy. But to do that, you must survive. The words echoed in Naruto's mind. But before he could respond, a rustling sound came from the forest. Naruto turned his head, and his heart sank. Several men and women from the village were walking towards him with torches and weapons. Their faces were distorted with anger. There you are, demon, one of them shouted. Today we will finally get rid of you. What are you? What do you want to do? Naruto's voice was shaking. He tried to get up, but his legs wouldn't obey him. You shouldn't exist, one of the women said. Because of you, we lost our loved ones. You should disappear. Naruto wanted to scream, to run away, but his body was frozen in horror. The crowd pounced on him. The blows rained down one after another. He felt his bones breaking, blood pouring into his eyes. But he didn't scream. He just lay there, taking the blows until his consciousness began to fade. Is this the end? He thought, feeling his body grow cold. But at that moment, a fierce fire flared up inside him. It was Kurama. No, the fox's voice rang out. You will not die here. I won't let you. Suddenly, Naruto's body began to glow. The crowd retreated in horror, but it was too late. A huge wave of chakra engulfed them all, throwing them away. The next moment, Naruto felt his body dissolve in a strange energy. Kurama, what are you doing? He whispered. I am saving you, boy, replied the fox. But in return you will never return to this world. With those words, Naruto's consciousness faded. The last thing he felt was the cool water caressing his skin. Chapter 2, beginning in the world of One Piece. The world slowly began to take shape. The feeling of cool water was replaced by sounds Naruto had never heard before. Strange clicks, muffled noises, as if the world around him was covered with a thick layer of glass. His eyelids felt heavy, but he forced himself to open them. All he saw was a flickering light shining through the water. Water? Naruto gasped, but to his surprise, he could breathe. His lungs filled with strange, salty air, and instead of choking, he felt at home. It was strange, even frightening. You're finally awake, a familiar voice said. Naruto turned his head sharply, and Kurama appeared before him in all his glory. The huge, red fox was now floating in the water next to him, as if the weight of his body meant nothing. Kurama had a sly, even smug grin. What's going on? Where are we? Naruto whispered, looking at the fox, who looked quite pleased with his situation. We are no longer in your village, boy. This world is different. And perhaps here you will have a chance at a new life, Kurama replied. His voice was calm, but there was an underlying threat in it. Before Naruto could ask another question, something big and fast rushed past him. A huge tail. A wave washed over him, and the next moment he felt strong arms grab him. Before he could even comprehend anything, he was on the surface of the water, and a girl's face appeared before his eyes. Are you okay? She screamed. Her voice was clear, and her huge green eyes looked at him with concern. Who are you? Naruto breathed out, looking her over. The girl was strange, her face resembled a human's, but instead of legs, she had a long tail covered in glittering scales. A mermaid. A real mermaid. I'm Kami, she replied, smiling weakly. Are you here alone? What happened to you? Naruto wanted to say something, but he felt his strength leaving him. His head started spinning and he lost consciousness. When he opened his eyes again, he was surrounded by a completely different world. Great arches of coral, glittering in different shades, spread out before him, creating a natural palace. Fish of all shapes and sizes swam around, and in the distance he could see creatures similar to Kimi. They moved with incredible grace, talking or working. You're awake. Kami appeared next to her, her face lighting up with a smile. I was so scared you wouldn't survive. Naruto slowly stood up, feeling weak but alive. He looked at himself, his skin was slightly glowing, and his arms and legs were covered in thin scales. Something had changed in his body. What happened? Why can I breathe underwater? He asked, looking at Kami. This is your power, Kurama's voice rang out. Naruto turned around, but didn't see the fox. Only his silhouette flashed in the water. The world we've entered isn't like yours. Different laws apply here. And it seems your new nature has already adapted to them. Kami frowned, not understanding who this question was directed at. She grabbed Naruto's hand and pulled him along. Come on, my parents will want to talk to you. They need to decide what to do with you. The palace that Kami had brought him to was even more impressive on the inside. Tall halls of coral glowed with a soft light, and in the center of each hall grew bizarre sea trees. Naruto felt small and out of place among this beauty. Kami's parents greeted him with caution. Her father, a tall merman with a long beard, looked at Naruto carefully. "You're from the human world," he finally said. "But you're not like them." I don't know what happened to me," Naruto admitted. "I just woke up here." The mermaid's father nodded thoughtfully. "You can stay with us, but remember, if you bring trouble here, we will be forced to expel you." Naruto bowed, feeling a mixture of relief and gratitude. For the first time in a long time, he was being given a chance. Several years passed. Life underwater was completely different, but Naruto gradually got used to it. Kami became his best friend. Together they explored the depths of the ocean, played with fish, and learned from the wise elder merman. Kurama, though he remained on the sidelines, continued to train Naruto. He taught him how to use chakra to manipulate water, develop speed and flexibility. Naruto quickly mastered the new art, becoming stronger and stronger. But despite the happiness he found in this new world, there was still an emptiness in his heart. He missed people. Even though they hated him, he still craved their company. This feeling grew stronger with each passing year. One day, Kami approached him with a sad face. "I have to leave the kingdom," she said. "My parents decided it was time for me to go to Fishman Island. There, I can learn more about our people." Naruto was holding back his tears. Kami was the only one who understood him. "But I can't go with you." She shook her head. "You should stay. You're part of this family now. And besides, there's more to come, I'm sure." The words did not comfort him, but he knew she was right. He followed her to the borders of the kingdom, watching her silhouette disappear into the shimmering water. Naruto spent the next years training and thinking. He felt an increasing pull towards the surface. And one day, he decided to take a risk. He rose from the water and found himself on a desert island. There, for the first time in a long time, he saw the sun. But this was not the last surprise. A few days later, a pirate ship fell into his net. Fate was already preparing a meeting with new people, and a new life. Chapter 3, First Encounter with Humans. The bright sun was blinding his eyes, burning his skin after a long time spent in the cool depths of the ocean. Naruto had a hard time adjusting to this new, too loud and bright world. The winds here were not like the undercurrents. They were sharp, gusty, and carried with them the smell of salt and freedom. Sitting on the ledge, he felt free for the first time in a long time. But something stirred inside him, a longing for his friends and for those he had long since left behind. He missed Kimi, her ringing laughter and kind eyes. He even missed Kurama's sarcastic comments, who had been silent lately, allowing Naruto to get used to the surface. The silence of his thoughts was broken by a strange sound. In the distance, on the horizon, a dark spot appeared, slowly growing larger. As it approached, Naruto could see a huge ship with high masts and taut sails. A black flag with a skull fluttered in the wind, as if warning of impending danger. Naruto's heart began to beat faster. "Pirates," he muttered under his breath. He'd heard stories from Kami and her parents about people living on the surface. The stories were always filled with horror, mermaids being kidnapped, pillaged, destroyed. But there was something about this ship that was so alluring. Naruto felt a strange thrill, a mixture of fear and curiosity. The ship dropped anchor near the shore. Loud voices and laughter echoed across the water as the boats with the pirates approached the island. Naruto hid behind a rock, watching them. They were people, but not at all like the ones he remembered from Konoha. They were loud, free, and seemed to know no limits. Their movements were confident, and their faces were weathered, with wide grins. One of the pirates, a tall red-haired man with a scar on his face, laughed loudly as he gave commands. He looked imposing, but there was none of the hatred in his eyes that Naruto was used to seeing in the people of Konoha. Naruto decided to come closer. He wanted to hear what they were saying, to find out who these people were. But as soon as he took a step, he felt a sharp tug. Something wrapped around his leg, and he found himself lifted into the air. It was a net left by the pirates to catch fish. He was trapped. "Hey! Look what we caught," one of the pirates shouted, pointing at Naruto. Several more people ran up to him, looking at him in surprise. "What the hell is this?" asked another. "Is it a boy or a fish?" "I'm a human," Naruto shouted, trying to free himself. But his voice only caused another burst of laughter. "A man? Have you seen yourself? Look at your scales, boy," one of the pirates laughed, pointing at his hands. Naruto looked down and realized with horror that his skin was still covered in a thin layer of scales, a feature he had acquired from years of living underwater, now betraying his connection to the sea. He felt panic wash over him. "Let me go," he screamed, struggling in the net. But the more he tried to get out, the more entangled he became. The red-haired man, who had been watching the scene with a slight smile until now, finally came closer. His eyes scanned Naruto, as if trying to figure out who was in front of him. "Calm down, guys," he said, raising a hand to stop the laughter. "Let's get this straight first. How did you get in here, boy?" Naruto paused, trying to catch his breath. He didn't know what to say. The truth? That he was a merman who grew up in an underwater kingdom? That he was running away from his past life? He was sure the pirates would just laugh in his face. I just ended up here," he finally said. "I don't know how." The man looked at him carefully and then ordered, "Get him off that thing. He doesn't seem to be a threat." The pirates reluctantly obeyed. Naruto struggled to stand, still trying to understand what was going on. The redhead leaned towards him and extended his hand. "My name is Shanks," he said. "Who are you?" "Naruto," he replied, shaking the outstretched hand firmly. It was the beginning of a new chapter in his life. Chapter 4, Meeting Shanks Pirates. When Naruto climbed the rocky peak and saw the pirate ship, his heart began to pound. This moment was a real test for him. On the horizon, against the bright sunset sky, stood majestically a ship with tall masts and a black flag adorned with a skull and crossbones. This symbol was familiar to the world of pirates, a world he had only heard about from Kami and her parents, but had never seen in person. He looked around his new world, where there were no familiar people and no enemies he had known since childhood. This world was full of unknown possibilities, but also unpredictable dangers. What if these pirates were as cruel as those who had wronged him in Konoha? But curiosity won out. He decided to find out who they were. Naruto wanted to see these people who lived outside of his usual reality, and maybe even find someone who wouldn't hate him. As the ship drew closer and dropped anchor, the noise of the pirates disembarking reached his ears. Naruto retreated into the shadows, hiding behind a rock, and watched carefully. Men and women jumped off the side of the ship with cheerful shouts and headed for the shore. Despite their rough voices and dirty jokes, Naruto noticed that their faces were not as angry as the ones he had seen in Konoha. These people were bold, confident, but their demeanor did not have the icy disgust he had felt in his home. He watched them go about their business, unloading supplies, laughing and arguing with each other. Every step he took toward this world was a step into the unknown. But the more he watched the pirates, the more he felt their strange attraction. He thought that these people might accept him if he decided to join their crew. At first he was cautious, but then his decision became firm. He could not remain alone on this island, not knowing what would happen to him next. After all, this was his chance. The pirate ship became more than just a vessel from land. It was a symbol of a new life, a new freedom that he had been searching for so long. He did not yet know that his encounter with them would open up completely new horizons. Naruto moved towards them, but as soon as he took the first step, his foot got caught on the rope. The forces of nature, as always, were playing with him. The next moment, the net, like a magical trap, entangled him, and he was trapped. "What the hell is this?" a sharp voice called from the far end of the shoreline. Naruto tried to free himself, but only thrashed helplessly, knowing that his chances of getting out of the net were slim. Several pirates had already approached him, but instead of immediately showing aggression, they began to look around and look at him with obvious curiosity. They had never seen a man with such strange features. Flesh covered in scales, with bright eyes that seemed to be able to see everything that was happening around. "Well, isn't the fishing net too small for you?" came the voice of one of them, full of joy and unexpected curiosity. Naruto gritted his teeth and continued to struggle. But to no avail. At that moment, due to his indecision and fear of being caught, he did not even notice how one of the pirates came closer. "Hey, are you okay?" he asked, looking at Naruto with interest. The pirate was tall, with red hair and a bright look, not without confidence, but with a kind of good-natured cruelty. He smiled, coming closer. "Let him go, boys. Let's find out who it is and what he's doing here." Naruto was silent. His mind was in turmoil, he didn't know what to do. Turn his back and run? Or talk to them? But either way, this was a new stage, the beginning of something unknown. ####, Chapter 5, Joining Shanks. The red-haired pirate leaned down to free Naruto from the net. His movements were sure and fast, but also cautious, as if he was expecting this strange guy to suddenly do something. When the net was finally released, Naruto found himself standing in front of the man, feeling his breathing gradually return to normal. "So you really are a human, huh?" the red-haired pirate said, looking him over carefully. "I thought you were some kind of weird fish or something." Naruto felt a cold wind touch his skin as he stood up. He didn't know what to say. This guy looked so calm and friendly that Naruto felt the tension inside him begin to ease a little. All he could do was nod. "Yes. I am a human. It's funny that you ended up here. We just came to park and relax for a bit, and here you are, a fish, a human, or someone who definitely doesn't fit into our plans," the pirate said, rubbing his chin. His smile didn't fade, he didn't look aggressive, but Naruto felt that this man knew how to handle the situation. The red-haired pirate held out his hand, and Naruto took it carefully. "My name is Shanks." "And you?" "Naruto," he muttered. His voice was controlled, but questions were still bubbling inside. What was going on? Why did he feel so lost? Shanks looked at him carefully. His gaze was warm, almost attentive, which made Naruto relax a little. "Well, Naruto, it looks like you're in the best hands. We're pirates, but we're not like most. We seek adventure, not battle. Would you like to travel with us?" Naruto was dumbfounded. Join the pirates? He didn't even know what life on a ship was like. But then he realized that this was his chance. The chance he had been looking for. Maybe with these people he could find some purpose in this strange world that had become his home. "Will you really accept me?" "I don't know what to do." His voice was quieter than he intended. But it was honest. He didn't know where to go or what would happen next. Shanks nodded. "We've all been in your position at some point. We're all friends here, Naruto. Don't worry. Join us, and we'll show you what life is really like." Naruto felt his heart flutter at those words. He didn't know what was ahead of him, but in that moment, he felt like his life had a new purpose. To be a part of something bigger. To be a part of something that wouldn't judge him. Naruto joined the pirates, but life on board was a real challenge for him. He quickly realized that Shanks' pirates were not just bandits looking to cause chaos. In fact, they were much more complex people than he expected. Each of them was unique, with their own quirks, but they all treated each other like family. This was what Naruto had been looking for. Shanks himself often spent time with him, teaching him the basics of life on a ship. They trained together, and Naruto soon mastered the basics of martial arts, even if he could not yet become a master. He learned how to use a katana and even tried to master the basics of a pistol. But most of all, he enjoyed teaching himself what was missing from his past: a life on land, a life full of unlimited possibilities. Over time, Naruto became part of the crew. Shanks' pirates accepted him as one of their own, no questions asked. He had been with them for several months now, and despite his abilities and past being a mystery to many, they treated him with respect. However, Naruto increasingly felt that he didn't quite belong in this new world. He learned to live among people, but he still couldn't shake the feeling that he needed something more. His connection to the sea was deeper than his connection to the land. And sometimes he felt like the sea was calling him back. Shanks, as always, was taking things slowly. He saw that Naruto needed answers, and he knew that time would put everything in its place. But for Naruto, this was more than just an adjustment. This was a new beginning. His story was just beginning. And now he knew he had a chance to change his path. This was his chance to be part of a team he could trust and go where new challenges awaited him. Chapter 6, Devil Fruit. Several weeks passed, and Naruto began to get used to life on the ship. Every morning began with training, or as they called it, morning sea ritual. He taught him how to balance on the rocking deck, maneuver with a katana, and even shoot a pistol. Shanks, although a strict teacher, was patient, and with each passing day Naruto felt his skills improve. But there was something that bothered him about this world: his powers. After taking the Mizu Nomi Devil Fruit, Naruto gained incredible control over water. But with each new experiment, he felt this power become more and more unpredictable. When he concentrated, the water under his fingernails literally began to move at his command. He could pour water into empty vessels, create water balls, and control the currents of the sea. However, sometimes his powers got out of control. One evening, during dinner, Naruto sat on the deck and watched the sunset paint the horizon in orange hues. In his mind, he was practicing, trying to control the water. A few drops crawled out of a nearby barrel and began to float in the air. But then something went wrong. The water began to rapidly expand, capturing the air around it. Soon it was filling the entire deck, creating a small storm. Shanks, sitting nearby and watching Naruto, raised his eyebrows and stood up. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out. Naruto quickly returned the water back to the barrel, feeling his face burn in shame. "Sorry, Naruto started, but Shanks smiled. "Don't worry, kid. We were all new to our powers once. The main thing is to learn to control them. And you, it seems, have already realized that you have power." Naruto, still a little embarrassed, nodded, trying to hide his displeasure. He knew he needed to train more, but every time he failed, it made him feel different from everyone else. Like his abilities were something unacceptable and wild. At that moment, one of the crew members, a young pirate named Ben, approached them. He handed Naruto a small container of fruit. "This is for you," Ben said, picking up the fruit. It was a strange fruit with scales, covered in thin stripes, like a fish. Naruto looked at it, confused. "What is this?" he asked, turning his gaze to Ben. "It's a devil fruit," Ben replied with a slight smirk. "I think you need to learn more about this kind of thing. You're part of this world now, right?" Naruto took the fruit and looked at it, unsure of what to do with it. He had heard stories of how devil fruits could give incredible powers, but he never thought he would find himself in such a situation. He knew that these fruits usually came with a price. And in his case, it was also strange, as if the world of One Piece had been a surprise to him from the very beginning. "Do you want to try it?" Ben asked again. "Don't worry, we've all tried it here, I've eaten the fruit myself once." "Do you want to see what happens?" Naruto thought. His encounter with this fruit was fateful. What if he became even stronger? Or, on the contrary, lost control of his power? He could already feel his new abilities taking over him. But what if this fruit gave him what he needed? Without further thought, Naruto took a bite of the fruit. The taste was disgusting. He felt his body begin to vibrate. At first, nothing happened, but soon he realized that his body was reacting. It was as if the water in his body was changing structure, yielding to his control. Shanks, watching him, waited with mild curiosity to see what would happen. Naruto felt his powers increase. The water around him began to move faster, as if in response to his inner impulses. "Now you've become a real fruit user," Shanks said with a wink. "It may not be easy to control them, but you're learning." Naruto felt his connection with the water grow stronger. He could manipulate the liquid much faster and more precisely than before. It was amazing, the power that was now becoming a part of him. "Naruto, remember that such power can be both a blessing and a curse," Shanks warned as he watched Naruto practice with his new abilities. "You can do anything, but always be careful. You don't want to ruin everything around you, do you?" Naruto realized that his powers were not just a means of defense or offense. They could destroy, and he had to learn to control them so as not to harm himself and his new friends. Shanks offered Naruto his hand, helping him up after his last efforts with the fruit. "You're okay, kid. We have a lot to go through together." The next day, Naruto returned to training, deciding that he had to work even harder on himself. He knew that every step he took would be important for his future. He grew stronger every day, but there was still a void in his heart that he could not completely fill. But now he had a goal, to be part of something big, something real. And even greater challenges lay ahead, and he was ready to face them. Chapter 7, Becoming a Pirate. Even though Naruto had quickly adapted to life on the ship, he felt the sea and his abilities begin to have a greater influence on him with each passing day. He wasn't just a boy from another world, he was part of Shanks' crew, and that meant so much more than just traveling with pirates. It was the moment he realized that from now on, his life would be defined not only by his powers, but by how he would perform among the people he now called friends. He trained more and more, trying to improve his water control skills, but questions about what to do next kept popping into his head. He knew his powers were getting stronger, but they were still unstable. Sometimes the water would get out of his control, creating dangerous situations for his new comrades. Shanks wasted no time. He saw that Naruto was not only growing physically, but also changing internally. He became more confident, but at the same time, his face was increasingly worried. "You didn't think being a pirate was all fun, did you?" Shanks said one day as Naruto sat on the deck, looking into the distance. "You have to understand that our actions affect not only us, but everyone around us." These words made Naruto think. He always dreamed of becoming strong, but he never thought about the consequences of his actions. When he was in Konoha, he always tried to protect people, despite the fact that many of them hated him. But now, with his new powers, he was forced to realize that with great power comes great responsibility. One night, as Shanks' ship was crossing the Grand Line, a group of enemy ships appeared on the horizon. Shanks immediately gave the order to prepare for battle. The pirate crew immediately began to act in unison, as if this battle was part of their daily routine. Naruto, although not an experienced fighter, felt that it was his time to prove his worth. "Ready?" Shanks asked, standing next to him. Naruto nodded, feeling his heart beat faster with excitement. He was ready. Not so much for himself, but for those who had become his family. The thought gave him strength. He concentrated, activating his water powers. Water began to gather around him, turning into a deadly weapon. As the enemy ships approached, Naruto felt the water in his body begin to act as one, merging with the sea. He raised his hand, and several powerful jets of water shot out towards the approaching enemy ships. The water, controlled by his will, tore through the air, creating barriers and obstacles, blocking attacks and protecting the ship. "Okay, Naruto," Shanks shouted as the first pirate ship was pushed back and its attack was neutralized. Naruto felt stronger than ever. But with each passing second, his control over his power was becoming more fragile. The water that had seemed obedient to him before now sometimes strayed off course, bursting out of his hands and filling the deck. But then he saw Shanks rushing into battle. His actions were swift and decisive, as if he was prepared for any eventuality. Shanks, katana in hand, cut a swift path through the enemy pirates, easily fending off their attacks. His crew acted in unison, and each of them was like part of a machine that was moving towards victory. With the last of the enemy pirates down and their ship destroyed, Shanks' crew breathed a sigh of relief. But Naruto realized that combat was not just a matter of strength. It was the art of decision-making, quick reactions, and most importantly, teamwork. He had to learn to be not only strong, but also wise. Shanks walked up to him, seeing Naruto still processing what was happening. "You did it, boy. You're part of the crew now. But remember, a pirate's life isn't all about winning. There are times when you have to be smart as well as strong." Naruto clenched his fists as he looked at the sea. He felt like the sea had become a part of him and he was ready to continue on his way, but he knew that even harder trials were ahead of him. After this battle, life on the ship changed. Naruto became part of the crew not only in battle, but also in everyday life. He learned how to be a real pirate, how to respect his comrades and understand that strength is not the only way. He had a lot to learn. And though there were still great trials ahead, Naruto felt like he had finally found a place where he could truly shine. The path he had begun was full of uncertainty, but he was now certain of one thing: his future was not as bleak as his past. And this was only the beginning. ###Chapter 8, Guiding Star. Shanks and his crew continued their journey through the Grand Line, facing new threats and unexpected adventures. But for Naruto, each trial was a new step towards understanding what it meant to be a pirate. Despite everything, he did not feel like an outsider among them. Each of the crew members was special, and each treated their work and their friends with love. However, despite all this, Naruto felt that his connection to this world was still unstable. The pirate life, the adventures, the battles, and the travels, all of it was new and unknown. He constantly wondered what was coming next, where he was going, and what place he should take in this vast, restless world. One morning, just as the sun was rising, Naruto stood at the stern of the ship, looking out into the distance. The sea was calm, but thoughts were raging in his chest. He felt like something was missing from his life, despite everything he had already experienced. "Are you thinking about something, Naruto?" he heard a familiar voice. It was Ben, one of the closest people on the ship, who often spent time with him. Naruto turned around, slightly surprised that Ben had noticed his thoughts. "Just thinking about everything." Ben smiled, sitting down next to him. "So you're looking for your path, huh?" he asked, watching him with a small smile. "You know, all of us here were once like you. Without a purpose, without a past. But you have to understand one thing: you're not alone. You're part of a team, Naruto. And you'll find your place here, trust me." Those words brought out a feeling in Naruto that he hadn't been able to comprehend before. He wasn't alone. His life with the pirates was new, but it was a team, and now he felt like he was part of something bigger than just a loner. "Do you really think so?" Naruto asked, looking at Ben. "Yes. Shanks and all of us here believe in you. You've been through a lot already, and you have more to go, but if you keep moving forward and believe in yourself, you'll find what you need, Ben replied. Naruto looked out at the endless sea. He could feel the water in his soul calming down, his powers beginning to harmonize with the world around him. It was a moment when he felt his connection to this world becoming stronger than ever. His abilities were no longer a source of fear. He was ready to control them. I will try. I will move forward, Naruto said, determined that his path would now be full of purpose. Meanwhile, new problems began to appear on the horizon. Shanks was always prepared for unexpected turns of fate. And as soon as another threat appeared on the horizon, the crew prepared for battle. However, this time was special. On their way there was an island known for its dangerous conditions and mystical secrets. This island isn't called that for nothing, Shanks said, standing on the deck with a map in his hands. Ghost Island. A place full of secrets. But it looks like we need to stop. Why? Naruto asked, narrowing his eyes. Shanks's gaze made it clear that this wasn't just a random stop. There is something here that we must take. Something very important to all of us. Naruto couldn't understand the mystery behind these words. Why this island? What was hidden there? Shanks noticed his confusion and chuckled. Don't worry. We'll figure it all out when we get there. As the ship approached the shore, Naruto felt his heart beat faster. This island was covered in thick fog, and its silhouette seemed to only add to the air of mystery. The air smelled of dampness and old legends, and the silence was staggering. It was just as the old maps described, an island that hid its secrets, and which could prove dangerous to anyone who decided to look there. But Naruto was ready. He had more than just a will to survive now, he had a sense of belonging. And maybe this island was the place where he would find his answers. Chapter 9, Ghost Island. The milky mist that enveloped the island seemed to be a living thing. It moved as if breathing in and out, sometimes revealing strange shapes of dark trees, then disappearing, as if the island did not want its secrets to be revealed. Shanks' pirate ship docked at the edge of this mysterious shore, and Naruto felt his body become electrified. This was not just any place, there was something more here. Be careful, Shanks said as he approached the crew who were about to land. His face grew serious. This island holds dangers we've never encountered before. But we're here for a reason. The team nodded and everyone began to gather, checking their gear and weapons. Naruto, though young, felt that his abilities and experience were now not only useful, but necessary. He was not the same boy who had been running from attacks in Konoha. He was a part of this world now, and he was willing to do whatever it took to help his comrades. Kurama, do you know anything about this island? Naruto whispered in his head as he looked at the thick fog. I've never heard of it, the fox replied. But I sense something ancient lurking here. Listen to your instincts, Naruto. Don't rely on your own strength. Naruto nodded, feeling a little uneasy. He knew Kurama wasn't just saying that. The fox was old, and his intuition was time-tested. Shanks's crew stepped onto the land, and every step seemed like a step into the unknown. Everything was dead and silent, as if the island itself did not want to disturb the silence. The only sounds were their footsteps and the rustle of their clothes. The fog made it difficult to see far, adding to the feeling that they might be being watched by something invisible. What is this place? Asked one of the pirates, trying to make out something in the fog. A place where old legends become reality, Shanks replied, his gaze full of determination. Here we will find what we need. As they moved around the island, Naruto increasingly felt a strange pressure in the air, as if this island was not welcoming. His powers, the water that was always with him, now seemed different to him. The water did not move as usual, but seemed to resist his influence. Naruto realized that something was wrong here. Look at this, Ben said, pointing to the side. He pointed to something strange that was shimmering in the fog. Naruto walked closer and saw huge stones covered in strange symbols that glowed with a dim light. "What is this?" he asked. "Old runes," Shanks said, walking up to the stones. "There was once a civilization here, long gone. These symbols are their language. But I think they're more than just a sign. They're traces of something more powerful." Naruto felt his heart beat faster. He realized that they were getting close to something important, and what they would find would not only be answers, but possibly danger. As they continued moving forward, the group of pirates came to a half-abandoned temple that stood among the trees. Its pillars were broken, and dusty chains hung at the entrance. The door of the temple was closed, but Naruto immediately felt that this was where they were supposed to be. "I knew it," Shanks said, grinning. "This temple, it could be what we've been looking for." Naruto stood there, waiting, trying to sense what was coming next. His intuition told him that this place was more than just an ancient monument. However, he knew that there was no turning back. Shanks' crew was ready to go all the way, and Naruto was ready to go with them. "Ready?" Shanks asked, looking at him. "Ready," Naruto replied, clenching his fists and preparing for what awaited them inside. Silence. All around. The sound of their footsteps echoed across the ancient stones. The doors of the temple opened, and before them appeared a huge dark arch, leading into unknown darkness. Naruto felt his body tense. In that moment, he realized that this entire island, this entire mystery, was not just an obstacle in their path. It was a challenge. And his decision, as a pirate and as a man, depended on how prepared he was to face this unknown. "Forward," Shanks said, and they stepped into the darkness. The place they entered was completely different. Dim light fell on ancient walls, which were painted with scenes from the lives of long-vanished creatures. There was something ominous in every corner of this temple, as if time itself had lost its power here. In the center of the temple stood a stone altar, and around it were ancient ruins that seemed familiar, but also alien. Suddenly, as they approached the altar, there was a strange feeling, as if something was watching them. A slight movement in the shadows, something alive and unknown. "Be careful," Shanks whispered as they got closer. A door opened before them into the very depths of the temple, and Naruto realized that their trials were just beginning. Chapter 10, In the Heart of the Temple. The darkness inside the temple was palpable, almost tangible. The dim light from the torches on the walls barely penetrated the thickness of the ancient stone. It was so silent inside that it seemed as if time had stopped here. Even the rustle of their footsteps seemed too loud. But Naruto felt his inner unease growing with each step, as if everything in this place was against them. In the center of the temple, directly in front of them, stood a huge stone altar. On it lay something, an ancient artifact, surrounded by mysterious symbols and runes. These signs resembled those they had seen on the outside of the temple, but now they were larger and brighter, as if the stones themselves had come to life. Shanks slowed his pace and pointed at the artifact. "This is what we've been looking for," he said, but his voice was quiet and worried. "This is the key to the power that lies within this island. We must be prepared for anything." Naruto felt his heart speed up. He knew this wasn't just an artifact, it was something more. It wasn't just an object, it was something that could affect everything. This island, this temple, everything here was leading up to this moment. He had to figure out what it was. His abilities, his connection to water, all of it could be a big part of this. "We'll approach carefully," Ben said, his voice growing tense. The crew began to move forward, but something unexpected happened. All the symbols on the stones around the altar flared with a bright light, and the floor beneath the pirates' feet shook. Shanks took a step back, raising his katana, and the crew instinctively took up their weapons. "Get ready!" Shanks shouted. At that moment, the temple walls began to vibrate, and monstrous shapes emerged from the darkness. Naruto felt the dark forces beginning to fill the air. This wasn't just a test. This was a challenge. The temple didn't want them to take the artifact. The darkness that was coming to life around them was far older and more powerful than anything they could have imagined. "Hey, Naruto," one of the pirates shouted. Naruto turned around. Seeing shadows starting to gather around them, becoming denser. He knew that these weren't just ghosts, these were beings created by an unknown force, meant to protect this sacred object. Suddenly, his attention was drawn to one of the dark figures, who raised his hand. A crystal glowed in its palm, dark and ominous. Naruto felt his powers begin to resist his own commands. The water around him became heavy and viscous, as if something was trying to intercept its movement. "What is this?" he whispered, feeling his connection to the water element lose its strength. He couldn't control it. "This is the island's power," Kurama said in his head. "It's distorting your abilities. You'll have to do something else." Naruto quickly realized that his powers here were limited. He couldn't rely on water alone. He had to learn to act differently, like a true pirate, using his skills and intuition. With that understanding, he stepped forward, clenching his fists and preparing for his next move. At that moment, a being emerged from the shadows, not a man, but something like a giant figure made of stone and light. It raised a huge sword, the gleam of which illuminated the entire temple. Its movement was unnaturally smooth, as if the space itself was deforming around it. "Hold on!" Shanks shouted as he charged. The battle was inevitable. Naruto knew he would be facing not only a physical opponent, but also forces that were far stronger. He realized they would have to act quickly and decisively. The pirate crew was strong, but this island offered challenges that could change everything. With each strike, Naruto felt his strength grow. He taught himself to rely not only on his element, but also on his instincts. He watched his comrades fight and realized that each of them was important here. Everything around them began to shake. Rocks began to crack, and the very ground beneath their feet began to sway. Naruto realized that if they did not take the artifact in time, this temple would swallow them up. But there was another option: they could leave it here, but that would be a renunciation of what they came for. Naruto felt his determination grow with every step he took. He saw Shanks and his team continue to fight without giving up. They were all united by one goal. "I'll take him!" Naruto shouted as he headed towards the altar. He knew this wasn't just a challenge he'd defeated. This was a showdown with whatever was behind all that power. Whether it was the ancient power hidden within the artifact, or something even more ancient, it had to be his. The moment his abilities connected with that artifact would be decisive for their entire journey. And only when he touched the artifact did his world change. Chapter 11, The Force Awakens. When Naruto touched the artifact, the world around him changed. It was as if reality itself was dissolving. Light and darkness mixed, and his consciousness seemed to blur, absorbing all sensations, all emotions, all thoughts. He felt his body begin to fill with new strength, as if his essence was expanding to the scale of the island itself. A powerful stream of energy passed through him. The water in his body bubbled, transforming and strengthening, and the power emanating from the artifact penetrated every corner of his body. Naruto felt his abilities grow exponentially. Now he could not only manipulate water, but also merge it with other elements, create unimaginable shapes from it, and even control its density and structure. This was more than just the power of water. This was an energy that could destroy and restore, powerful and unbridled. Naruto felt himself being changed by his connection to this source of power. But this was not just a gaining of power, this was an awakening of something deep within his soul, ancient and powerful. "Naruto, what did you do?" he heard Shanka's voice. His comrades were confused as they looked at what was happening around them. Suddenly, the walls of the temple began to crack. Stones fell, and pieces of ancient mosaics rained down from the ceiling. Naruto felt the ground beneath him shake, as if the island itself was reacting to what was happening. It was dangerous. The nature of this place, its energy, was so powerful that perhaps even the structure of the temple itself could not withstand it. But Naruto couldn't stop. He was in a trance where his thoughts and actions merged into one. He could see everything around him, feel every little detail, every movement, every turn of events. And he knew that they had to finish this here and now. "Naruto, you have to let go of the artifact," Ben shouted, but his voice barely reached Naruto, as if he was in another world. "We can't take it if it destroys the island." But Naruto couldn't hear. He was overwhelmed by this new power that wouldn't let him rest. His body shook and his hands began to tremble as he tried to control the energy that was raging inside him. And in that moment, when everything around him was becoming unbearably bright and intense, he understood. This was not just an effort. This was an awakening. This power was connected to his own existence, to who he was and what he could become. He was not just a carrier of this power. He was part of it. "Naruto," the voice rang out again, and Naruto, as if waking up, saw Shankasa's face in front of him. The pirate looked at him with concern, but also with hope. "You must come back, boy. You are not alone." It was the last spark that helped Naruto find himself in this turbulent stream. He let go of the artifact, and his energy suddenly contracted, as if air had returned to his lungs. The forces retreated, and he felt his body becoming normal again. His connection with the water returned to normal, but now it was different. He realized that he could control this power not just with willpower, but with his heart. The temple suddenly creaked, and Shanks grabbed his arm, pulling him towards the exit. Rocks began to fall, and the entire structure collapsed. It was becoming more and more difficult to get out with each passing moment. But Naruto felt that he was okay now. This was his test, his victory. "Hurry!" Shanks shouted, and everyone rushed for the exit. They raced through corridors, avoiding collapsed walls, until they finally emerged outside. When they emerged into the open air, the island was already beginning to crumble. Enormous stone columns were falling into the sea, and the entire temple was engulfed in fog and flames. But Naruto knew that this wasn't just an escape. He had changed. He had a new power now, but more importantly, he had gained an understanding of who he was. It wasn't just an ability, it was his nature. He wasn't just a boy lost in the world. He was a part of this world, its power, and its destiny. When they returned to the ship, Shanks patted him on the shoulder. "You've been through a lot, Naruto. And you've learned to control this power. It's just the beginning, but you've already proven that you're ready." Naruto looked at the sea, which was calm and clear to him again. He knew that there were new challenges ahead, but now he was ready to face them. He had found his purpose. Now he knew that he could be whoever he wanted and do whatever he wanted. This was his time. "Yeah, this is just the beginning," Naruto said, smiling. "And I'm ready for it." Chapter 12, Winds of Change. The pirate ship continued on its way, and the fog that had once surrounded Ghost Island was now replaced by clear skies. For Naruto, it was a time of change, not just externally, but internally as well. He felt his powers change, and his very personality changed. He was not just a man, not just a pirate, he was something more, someone who could influence the course of events. Shanks stood at the helm, watching the horizon. His gaze was serious, but there was a soft smile in it, like a man who knew more than he was saying. He did not hide his satisfaction with how Naruto had handled the last test. "You made a good move, Naruto," Shanks said without turning around. His voice was deep, a little thoughtful. "But that was just the beginning. There will be many more situations ahead that will require your decisions. You have learned to control your power, but now it is important how you use it." Naruto stood next to him, thinking. He felt his inner strength still vibrating, ready to burst forth. These abilities were like a double-edged sword. On one hand, they gave him power, on the other, they could lead to destruction if not used wisely. I understand, Shanks, Naruto replied, his voice becoming more confident. I'll be ready. I know now that this is power, and it shouldn't control me. I have to decide for myself how to use it. Shanks nodded without saying another word. He knew Naruto would continue to learn. This moment was not just training for him, but an important step towards maturity. He now saw Naruto not only as a student, but as an equal. There was a spark in that young soul that could ignite entire worlds. A few days later, the ship continued its journey through the Grand Line, and Naruto felt himself becoming part of the crew, his life becoming an integral part of this world with each passing day. However, there were still many uncharted territories ahead. Shanks and his crew were not just pirates, they were adventurers, and their journey was full of challenges and opportunities. Tomorrow we'll be approaching the Sabaody archipelago, Ben said, walking up to Naruto as he sat at the stern, looking out at the lights of the setting sun. This place is known for its markets and pirate duels. We might even see a few familiar faces. Sabaody archipelago? Naruto asked, curious. He had heard of it, but only in rumors. It was one of the most dangerous places in the Grand Line, where allies and enemies clashed. A place where true pirates tested their strength. Yes. Everyone gathers here, from simple traders to the most famous pirates. I'm sure you won't be left without adventures, Ben added with a smile. That sounds interesting, Naruto said, his eyes determined. He knew that each new island, each new place, would present him with opportunities and challenges. But that also meant that his travels would only become more dangerous. He was ready for that. He was ready to face everything this world had to offer. Sabaody archipelago. The next day, Shanka's ship arrived at Sabaody archipelago. Naruto first noticed how the waters around him were becoming increasingly murky, and the coastlines were unusual. Tall, massive buildings lined the coastline, and dozens of merchant ships floated on the water. There was an air of bustle about the place, and every move in this place was laden with excitement and danger. Here we are, Shanks said, standing on the deck, watching the ship approach the port. He looked like a man who had seen this place many times before, and he couldn't hide his interest. What's going on here? Naruto asked, his eyes searching the crowd for familiar faces. He felt like this place was different. There was a sense of competition and power in the air. This was an island where everyone was trying to get to the top. This is where you'll meet everyone who's connected to the Grand Line, Ben explained. This is where all sorts of people cross paths. It's all about money, power, and influence. Not everyone comes here with good intentions. So this is a place for real pirates, Naruto said with a slight amusement as he chuckled. For anyone willing to survive, yes, Shanks replied, also smiling. Are you willing to meet such people? Naruto didn't answer right away. He knew that with each new challenge, with each new encounter, he became stronger. And the Sabaody archipelago was the next step on his path. Ready, he said, standing up. This is going to be interesting. Chapter 13, Secrets of Sabaody. Shanks' ship docked at one of the many docks of the Sabaody archipelago. A dense bustle engulfed the port, where dozens of ships, merchants, and pirates crowded together, making deals, waving weapons, or simply arguing loudly. Life was in full swing here, and every movement was filled with danger and excitement. Naruto, standing on the deck, could not tear his eyes away from the chaos. Welcome to Sabaody, boy, Ben said, clapping him on the shoulder. A place where your skills can earn you either riches or a coffin. Shanks walked to the edge of the deck with a smile, watching Naruto. You'll have to keep your eyes peeled here. Every other person here is out to get what they want. Remember, this world is harsh, but also interesting. Naruto nodded, feeling a little nervous. He knew that this archipelago would be an important step for him. Here he could not only test his strength, but also figure out how to fit into this world of pirates. The team disembarked, mingling with the crowd. Everyone was moving in different directions. Some were buying supplies, some were checking information about new routes, and some were just looking for a way to have fun. Naruto walked behind, watching closely. He noticed details, how people hid their weapons, how some hid their faces, how they whispered in corners. "What do you see, Naruto?" Shanks asked, noticing his student scanning the crowd. "People are afraid," Naruto said quietly. "They're afraid of each other, but they pretend everything is okay. This place is dangerous, but everyone is trying to survive." Shanks chuckled. "You learn quickly. Sabaody is no place for the weak. Here, you either find a way to survive or become prey." Their path led them to one of the large market districts, where goods were sold right on the street. Strange fruits, weapons, jewelry, rare artifacts, all of this was displayed on wooden stalls. Naruto immediately noticed one of the devil fruits lying in plain sight. "Devil's fruits?" he asked, pointing to one. "Yes," Shanks said. "But not all of them are real. There are a lot of scammers on Sabaody who sell ordinary fruits as devil fruits. The real ones cost a fortune." Naruto stared at the counter, but his mind was elsewhere. He was remembering the day he ate his own fruit and how it had changed his life. His power was a part of him now, but he was still learning how to control it. "You look tense," Shanks noted. "Just thinking," Naruto replied. "About how this is all connected. These fruits, this world. I feel like my power isn't a coincidence." Shanks looked at him seriously. "Maybe you're right. This world is full of mysteries. But remember, it's up to you to decide how to use what you have." ####, an unexpected union. As they walked deeper into the market district, Naruto felt a strange uneasiness. His intuition that he had developed with Kurama told him that they were being watched. He turned around, trying to figure out what was causing this feeling. A shadow flickered through the crowd. Naruto tensed, his hands instinctively raising into a fighting stance. "Someone's behind us," he said quietly to Shanks. The pirate just nodded. "Easy. It's normal here. But be prepared." A moment later, a figure in a long cloak jumped out in front of them. It was a tall man with a mask that hid half his face. His voice was low and hoarse. "Are you Shanks' pirates?" he asked, glancing at the captain. "Yes," Shanks replied, looking at him calmly. "And who are you?" "I am the one who can offer you information. But you have to pay for information." Shanks narrowed his eyes. "And what information can you offer us?" "There is someone here on Sabaody who is looking for you." "And it is not a friend," the stranger said. Naruto tensed. He knew that such statements were rarely empty. Shanks remained unperturbed. "Who is this?" he asked. "I can tell you, but in return I need you to help me. I have a matter that requires your help." Shanks considered. He didn't like this kind of game, but he knew that sometimes you had to take risks. "Okay," he said. "We'll hear you out." ###Battle of Sabaody. The information the stranger provided led them to another section of Sabaody. There, among the dilapidated buildings, they encountered a group of pirates who were clearly waiting for them. Naruto realized it was an ambush, but it was too late. "Shanks," one of the pirates shouted, drawing his weapon. "At last we meet." Shanks' team reacted quickly. Everyone took up their weapons, preparing for battle. Naruto, feeling his strength begin to build, focused. He knew this battle would be important. The water around him began to move. He created currents that wrapped around his body, preparing to attack. His opponents tried to attack, but Naruto used his speed and flexibility to dodge and counterattack. Shanks and his crew fought like it was their daily business. Each of them was a master of their craft, and their coordinated actions showed why they were considered one of the strongest pirate crews. Naruto used his abilities to create barriers of water to block attacks and to send powerful streams of water to knock weapons out of his enemies' hands. His movements were fast, precise, but he was still learning how to use his power in a real fight. When the fight was over, Naruto felt his strength draining. He fell to his knees, breathing heavily. Shanks walked up to him and put his hand on his shoulder. "You've done well," he said. "But remember, your power is only a tool. It's how you use it that counts." Naruto nodded, realizing that he still had a lot to learn. Chapter 14, In the Center of Chaos. The Sabaody archipelago was a cauldron of intrigue, mystery, and danger. After the battle with the unknown pirates, Naruto and Shanks' crew became even more cautious. Despite their success, there was still a sense of unease. The enemies had not disappeared, and every corner of the island could hide a new threat. Naruto felt that these events were just the beginning, and that there was more to come. Mysterious message. The next morning, while the crew was discussing their next plans in one of Sabaody's taverns, a boy approached them with a letter. His face was frightened, and his hands were shaking. Shanks took the letter and read it, his expression becoming serious. "What's that?" Naruto asked, seeing the captain studying the text carefully. "It's a challenge," Shanks replied, folding the letter. "One of the local pirate leaders wishes to meet with us. He claims to know something about our target." "And you're going to go?" Ben asked, frowning. "We have no choice," Shanks said. "If he really has information, we have to find out. But it could be a trap." Naruto felt his heart beat faster. He had already seen how Sabaody could turn into a dangerous place, but his desire to help the team was stronger than his fear. "I'll go with you," he said firmly. Shanks looked at him, his eyes glittering with respect. "Okay. But be prepared for any outcome." Meeting with the enemy. The meeting place turned out to be an old hangar on the outskirts of the archipelago. It was dark and damp inside, with only a few candles illuminating the space. Several pirates, armed to the teeth, sat on wooden crates. In the center stood a tall man in a hooded cloak. His face was hidden in shadow, but his voice was hoarse and menacing. "Shanks," he said as the captain entered the room. "You actually came. That proves you're still interested in your mission. If you know something important, speak up," Shanks replied, crossing his arms over his chest. His voice was calm, but there was a threat in it. The man chuckled. "I have information about what you're looking for. But it will come at a price." "What do you want?" Shanks asked. "I need an artifact from Ghost Island," the man replied. His words made Naruto tense up. They had barely escaped that island, and now someone wanted them to go back there. "This artifact is destroyed," Shanks said firmly. "It no longer exists." The man was silent for a moment, then looked straight at Naruto. "It exists. And you have it." Naruto felt a chill run down his spine. The man clearly knew more than he was letting on. His words made everyone in the room tense up, and Shanks' pirates slowly began to prepare for battle. "I don't know what you're talking about," Naruto replied, trying to remain calm. "Do not lie to me, boy," the man hissed. "You carry within you a power that should be mine. Give it up, or you will regret it." Battle in the hangar. Before anyone could respond, the man pulled out his sword and the entire room erupted into chaos. His men began to attack, and Shanks' team immediately joined the fight. Naruto, using his abilities, created a water barrier to protect himself and his comrades. The water swirled around him, repelling the attacks of the enemies. The man in the cloak was incredibly strong. His movements were fast and precise, and he easily parried Shanks's blows. Naruto tried to intervene by sending a powerful stream of water at him. But he only cut it with his sword as if it were simple fabric. "Your power is mine, boy," he said, rushing towards Naruto. But at that moment, Shanks stepped between them, blocking the attack. "You will not touch him," the captain said, his voice as hard as steel. The fight lasted for several minutes, but at some point Naruto felt his strength begin to fail. His body became heavier and heavier, and the water around him no longer obeyed as before. "Naruto, hold on!" Shanks shouted, noticing his condition. But instead of retreating, Naruto concentrated. He closed his eyes, feeling his connection with the water grow stronger. He remembered Kurama's words, "Listen to your intuition, boy. It is stronger than your strength." Opening his eyes, he saw the water around him begin to move in a new way. It became denser, almost solid. He directed it at the man, creating blades of water that shot straight at his enemy. The man was forced back, his cloak torn, revealing a scarred face underneath. "You'll pay for this," he hissed, disappearing into the shadows. After the battle. When it was all over, the hangar was completely destroyed. Naruto was breathing heavily, his strength was at its limit. Shanks walked up to him, putting a hand on his shoulder. "You did it," he said. "But this is just the beginning. This man knows more about you than we thought. We must be prepared for him to return." Naruto nodded, feeling his body still shaking from the tension. He realized that his path was becoming more and more dangerous, but he was ready to face whatever was waiting for him. Chapter 15, Test of Faith. The Sabaody archipelago was not one to let anyone relax. After the battle in the hangar, Shanks' crew knew that their presence on the island had become known to many. It was not just a challenge, but a warning. Every step they took would be followed by the attention of enemies and potential allies. Naruto felt the spotlight slowly shifting to him. His power, his essence, it was all part of something greater than he could understand. Conversation on the ship. When they returned to the ship, Shanks gathered the crew for a discussion. Naruto sat in the corner, lost in thought, while the captain recounted the aftermath of their last encounter. "We know they're waiting for us here. This man knew too much, and his interest in the artifact from Ghost Island shows that he's hunting not only us, but Naruto as well," Shanks said, glancing at his young comrade. "Why me?" Naruto asked quietly, but his voice was determined to find out the truth. Shanks looked at him carefully. "Because you are the key. The artifact from Ghost Island wasn't just an ancient item. It is linked to your power, Naruto. And those who are after it know this. Your water is not just an ability. It is something more, and they want to use it." Naruto felt a wave of emotion rise up inside him. He had always known that his powers were unique, but now it was becoming a real burden. He realized that his presence was not only endangering his life, but the lives of those around him. "What should I do?" he asked, looking at Shanks. "You have to be ready," the captain said. "Ready for them to come for you. But you're not alone. We're with you, Naruto. We're your team." These words gave Naruto confidence. He knew he had a long way to go, but now he was sure that he would not be alone in his fight. An unexpected ally. The next day, as the crew was preparing to leave Sabaody, a man came to their ship that no one expected to see. He was a tall man with long hair and a strange amulet around his neck. He introduced himself as Raiden and said that he had come to help. "Why should we trust you?" Ben asked, his hand on his weapon. "Because we share a common enemy," Raiden replied calmly. The man you've encountered isn't just after you. He's a threat to the entire world. And if we don't stop him, he'll get his hands on a power that can't be controlled. Shanks looked at Raiden carefully. His gaze was intense, but not hostile. Why do you want to help us? He asked. Because I know that the power this boy wields can be both a salvation and a curse. If it falls into the wrong hands, the world will fall into chaos, Raiden replied, nodding towards Naruto. Naruto felt the attention on him once again. But now he didn't feel fear. Instead, he felt a growing determination to find out the truth and protect those he cared about. #######Journey to the Hidden Island. Raiden spoke of a place called the Hidden Island. He claimed that there Naruto would be able to better understand his power and learn how to use it for good. This place was known only to a few, and only those who were prepared for the ordeal could reach it. The journey took several days. The sea was rough, and each day brought new challenges. But Naruto used this time to train. He learned to control his abilities, as well as work with a team. Shanks and Ben helped him, giving him advice and showing him how to better control his power. Kurama wasn't standing aside either. His voice was in Naruto's head, guiding and giving advice. You must listen to your heart, Naruto, the fox said. Your power is not just water. It is a part of you. If you learn to understand it, you will be able to do more than just fight. ######Hidden Island Challenge. When they arrived at the Hidden Island, they were met with a sight they could not have imagined. Enormous stone ruins surrounded by dense jungle towered over the sea. The place looked ancient, as if it had existed long before anything the world knew. Raiden pointed to the main temple in the center of the island. You will find answers there, he told Naruto. But be careful. This place is full of traps and tests. Naruto, feeling his heart beat faster, stepped forward. He knew that this was his path, and that he had to walk it to understand who he was. The temple was enormous. Its walls were covered in ancient symbols that glowed a soft blue, as if they were reacting to Naruto's presence. Every step he took inside the temple was a challenge, as if the place itself was testing him. He faced many challenges, traps, difficult puzzles, and even ghosts of the past. But Naruto did not give up. He felt that with each step he was getting closer to the truth. Finally, he found a room with a huge crystal in the center. When he touched it, his mind exploded with vivid images. He saw his past, his present, and what could be his future. He realized that his power was not just water. It was energy that connected worlds, energy that could create or destroy. When the vision ended, he realized that he had become different. His connection with the Force was now complete. He could control it, and he knew how to use it for protection. When Naruto returned to the team, they saw a change. His eyes glowed with confidence and his presence became more powerful. Did you find what you were looking for? Shanks asked. Yes, Naruto replied. I'm ready now. Chapter 16, The Path of Realization. After leaving the Hidden Island, Shanks' crew returned to the Grand Line. The atmosphere on board was tense, but full of determination. Naruto was no longer the boy who had accidentally fallen into this world. His journey had made him stronger, and the new power that had awakened within him gave him confidence. However, with this power came a sense of responsibility. First steps in a new status. For several weeks, the team crossed the vastness of the ocean. Naruto devoted every day to training. Now he could not only control water, but also combine it with other elements of the environment. His new ability to create solid forms from water amazed everyone on the ship. Ben even nicknamed him the Architect of the Sea when Naruto built a protective wall on the deck during a storm. You're making progress, Shanks said, watching one of the training sessions. His voice was full of pride, but also warning. But remember, your power is not just a gift. It's a test. If you can't control it, it could destroy everything around you. Naruto nodded, those words deeply embedded in his mind. He knew that control was the key element, and he was prepared for it. An unexpected encounter. In the third week of their voyage, the ship encountered an unfamiliar fleet. These were large, heavy ships. Clearly not designed for piracy. Their flags bore symbols that none of Shanks' crew had seen before. As one of the ships began to approach, the crew took up defensive positions. "What fleet is this?" Naruto asked, standing next to Ben. "I don't know, but they clearly aren't going to be friends with us," Ben replied, checking his weapon. The ship approached, and a voice came from it, "Captain Shanks, we have come for the boy. Give him to us, and we will leave." Shanks chuckled as he stood at the helm. "If you want to take anyone from my crew, you'll have to defeat us first." Naruto tensed up. He realized that these people were hunting him. He didn't know who they were, but he was sure it was related to his power. Battle on the water. The battle began suddenly. The enemy ships opened fire, and the sea around them filled with the roar of cannons. Shanks' crew fought in unison, repelling the first wave of attacks. Naruto, using his abilities, created water shields that protected the ship from incoming projectiles. He also used the water currents to redirect cannonballs back at the enemy ships. However, the enemy was prepared. One of the enemy ships released a net covered in a strange substance that neutralized Naruto's abilities. This forced him to retreat temporarily, but he quickly found a solution. Using the power he gained on the hidden island, he created massive spears from the water that pierced the hull of one of the enemy ships. "You're holding up well, Naruto," Shanks shouted as he punched his way through the enemies. The battle lasted for several hours, but thanks to the team's coordinated work and Naruto's newfound powers, the enemy was defeated. The last enemy ship retreated, leaving Shanks' crew relatively unharmed. Unraveling the mysteries. After the battle, Naruto found a map on one of the sunken ships. It was old and worn, but it showed a strange island surrounded by symbols similar to the ones he had seen on the hidden island. He showed it to Shanks. "This looks like another place connected to your power," Shanks said, studying the map carefully. "We should go there." "But why?" Naruto asked. "Isn't what I've learned already enough?" Shanks shook his head. "Your power is part of something bigger. If we don't find out what it is, it could become a problem for everyone." Naruto knew that Shanks was right. They decided to head to the place indicated on the map. Journey to the unknown. The journey to the new island took several weeks. During this time, Naruto continued to train and learn more about his power. He discovered that he could sense water from great distances, as well as create complex structures from it. These abilities not only helped him in battle, but also became an important part of his self-awareness. When they finally reached the island, they were met with something incredible. It was a huge archipelago of floating platforms connected to each other. In the center was a massive structure resembling an ancient temple. The final trial. As Naruto entered the temple, he felt the air around him fill with tension. The walls were covered in symbols that glowed as he approached. In the center of the room was a huge dome of water, with a crystal glowing inside. "This is what you were looking for," Shanks said, standing behind him. Naruto came closer, but as soon as he touched the dome, everything around him began to change. The dome disintegrated, and in front of him appeared a huge creature made of water. It was majestic and menacing at the same time. "Do you wish to wield this power?" a voice rang out. It was the voice of the creature itself. "I don't want to own her. I want to understand her," Naruto replied. The creature looked at him and then began to attack. The battle was difficult. The creature used water to create powerful waves and strikes, but Naruto, using all his skills, managed to stand firm. He realized that the fight was not only a physical fight, but also a test of his spirit. After a long struggle, Naruto was able to subdue the creature's power, but not destroy it. He realized that this power was not an enemy, but an ally. When it was all over, the crystal went out and the temple began to grow quiet. Naruto realized that he had completed an important stage of his journey. He was now not just the owner of power, but its keeper. Chapter Epilogue. When they returned to the ship, Naruto felt changed. He knew there were still many challenges ahead, but now he was confident that he could overcome them. Shanks walked up to him and said, "You've come a long way, boy. But this isn't the end. Now you know that you're part of something bigger. And it's your time to make this world a better place." Naruto nodded, looking at the horizon. He knew his journey was just beginning. Chapter 17, Sand Trials. The hot sun beat down mercilessly on the desert, and the hot sand burned his feet. Naruto, gritting his teeth, walked forward. Before him stretched the endless desert of Arabasta, where every mile seemed like an eternity. The wind carried dust, and every breath filled his lungs with dry, prickly air. "I never thought I'd miss water," Naruto muttered, shaking the sand off his head. His abilities were useless in a place where there wasn't even a hint of moisture. But the thought that something important was waiting for him in Alborn urged him on. He knew that this country needed help, and that his forces could do something good. Unexpected encounter. As Naruto walked through the sand dunes, he spotted a caravan in the distance. 3 carts pulled by camels were slowly moving towards him. But even from a distance, he could see that something was wrong. The caravan was under attack. A group of armed men surrounded the carts, shouting threats loudly. "No way!" Naruto said as he ran forward. As he got closer, he saw one of the bandits point his sword at the old man who was standing in front of his cart. Without thinking, Naruto raised his hand and a stream of water appeared out of thin air in front of him. The water hit the sand with a roar, causing the attackers to turn around. "Hey, what are you doing here?" Naruto asked loudly, standing between the bandits and the caravan. "Who the hell are you?" one of the bandits replied, surprised by the boy's sudden appearance. "I'm the one who's going to give you a beating," Naruto said with a smirk. He raised his hand, and water swirled in the air, turning into sharp blades. The bandits attacked, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. Naruto dodged the first blow, then sent a stream of water straight into the attacker's chest. Another tried to attack from behind, but Naruto used a small wave to knock the weapon out of his hands. Within minutes, all the bandits were lying on the ground, and those who could move had quickly fled. The caravan's gratitude. "Thank you, young man," said the old man whose cart was the bandits' first target. "If it weren't for you, we would have lost everything." "You're welcome," Naruto said, brushing sand off his clothes. "Are you okay?" The old man nodded. "We're heading to Albarna to ask the king for help. These bandits and the drought are destroying our country. We don't know how to survive anymore." "I'm going to Albarna too," Naruto said, thinking. "Maybe I should come with you. It'll be safer together." The old man agreed, and Naruto joined the caravan. He helped pull the carts, defended them from random attacks, and even entertained the children who rode with the old man's family. During this time, he learned a lot about the problems of Arabasta, the drought caused by crocodile, the fear among the inhabitants, and the general feeling of despair. Sandstorm. On the 3rd day of the journey, the desert showed its true face. A huge sandstorm arose from nowhere, covering everything in thick dust. Naruto could barely see a few steps in front of him. The caravan stopped, and people began to take cover wherever they could. "We won't survive this," someone from the caravan shouted. But Naruto wasn't going to give up. He created a huge water barrier that surrounded the caravan, protecting it from the elements. The sand hit the wall of water, but couldn't break through it. People looked at Naruto with surprise and gratitude, not understanding how he could do such a thing. "We'll get out of here," Naruto said firmly, focusing on maintaining the barrier. He knew it was difficult, but his determination helped him cope with the workload. When the storm died down, the caravan continued on its way. The old man approached Naruto and shook his hand firmly. "You are a blessing to this country." "Thank you." Naruto just smiled. It felt good to feel like he was helping people. It reminded him why he was here. Arriving in Albarna. When the caravan reached Albarna, Naruto saw a city that, despite its grandeur, was in decline. The people looked tired, the streets were dusty, and the buildings were dilapidated. He realized that the country was suffering, and he knew he had to do something. "This is where it all begins," he said to himself, looking at the palace walls in the distance. Not yet knowing that he would meet the Straw Hats and fight a battle that would change his life, Naruto was ready to move on, protect people and fight for their future. Chapter 18, Meeting the Straw Hat. Naruto looked at these people carefully. They looked like they had each been through many trials. Each had their own specialty: Zoro with his intimidating appearance and the swords he carried, Nami with her confidence and observation skills, Luffy with his carefree but firm smile. They all seemed unusual, and Naruto knew that they had something more in common than just the desire to travel. "So you want to help us?" Luffy asked, grinning. "Well, that's great. The more of us, the merrier." Zoro frowned as he looked at Naruto. "Luffy, you don't even know who he is. Don't you think it's weird that he just came out of nowhere and immediately wants to join?" Naruto raised his hands, trying to calm the situation. "I understand that you may not trust me. But I have seen that this country is suffering. I cannot stand by when there is an opportunity to help." Nami crossed her arms over her chest, studying him carefully. "You look like a guy who can handle a challenge. But we have a goal. We're going to stop Crocodile. He's not just any opponent. Are you sure you can handle it?" Naruto nodded, his gaze becoming firm. "I'm not afraid of difficulties. If Crocodile is hurting people, I'm willing to fight him." Luffy, noticing Naruto's confidence, only smiled wider. "So, crew? I think he'll do." Zoro just shook his head but didn't say anything. The rest of the crew accepted Luffy's decision, although some, like Usopp, still looked a little wary. "You said you had a devil fruit?" Chopper asked, coming closer. His voice was full of interest. "What kind of fruit do you have?" "Mizu no Mi," Naruto replied. "It's a Logia fruit that allows me to manipulate water. I can use it to attack, defend, and even create different shapes." The team looked at each other in surprise. Robin, who had been silent until now, spoke for the first time. "Interesting. I've never heard of a fruit that allows you to control water. Devil fruits and the sea usually don't mix." Naruto smiled slightly. "My fruit seems to be an exception. I myself don't fully understand its capabilities yet, but it has saved my life more than once." Luffy seemed to have already accepted Naruto as his own. He turned to the crew and loudly declared, "Good. Now we have a new friend. Naruto, welcome to our crew." Naruto felt a warmth in his chest. It was a strange but pleasant feeling. He was used to being alone, but now, in the company of these people, he felt like he was part of something bigger. The team wasted no time. They explained their plan to Naruto. They were going to infiltrate Albarna to prevent Crocodile from attacking. Princess Vivi, who was with them, explained how Crocodile had manipulated the people into making it appear that the king was to blame for the drought. "We must convince the people that Crocodile is the real enemy," Vivi said, her voice full of determination. "If we don't do it in time, a civil war will break out and the country will be destroyed." Naruto listened to her with respect. Her love for her people was obvious, and he felt like he wanted to help her too. "I will help you," he said firmly. "If I can use my power to stop the war, then I will." The team accepted his words with gratitude, and together they moved towards Albarna. Along the way, Naruto learned more about each of them. Luffy spoke of his adventures with excitement, not hiding his joy. Zoro shared stories of his training and battles. Nami talked about how she became a cartographer. Even Usopp, who was wary at first, gradually opened up and began to talk about his exploits, which were, to put it mildly, exaggerated. Naruto felt like these people were his new family. They were different, but they were united by purpose and friendship. As they approached Albarna, tensions rose. The city was filled with soldiers, and Crocodile had already begun his preparations for an attack. Vivi pointed to the palace. "There he is. We need to get there to stop him." The team split up to get inside, Naruto staying with Zoro and Sanji. They walked through the narrow streets, trying not to attract attention. "So, you're a fighter?" Zoro asked as they moved. "Can you handle it if it comes to a fight?" Naruto smiled. "You'll see for yourself." And he was not wrong. When they were attacked by a group of guards, Naruto showed his abilities. He used water to block attacks and disarm his opponents. His movements were fast and precise, and his attacks were powerful. Zoro watched him with respect. "You're good," he said when the fight was over. "But don't relax. Crocodile is waiting for us ahead, and he's no easy opponent." Naruto nodded. He knew it would be a test. But he was part of a team now, and that gave him strength. Together, they could overcome anything. When they reached the palace gates, Luffy, Nami and the others were already waiting for them. Everyone was ready for the final battle. Naruto felt the adrenaline start to run through his veins. Ahead was a battle that would change the fate of Arabasta. But he knew that they would win. Together. Chapter 19, The Battle of Arabasta. Naruto and the Straw Hats entered Albarna, where they could already sense the chaos approaching. Vivi led the way, her face focused and her voice firm. She knew every street in the city and confidently led them to the palace where Crocodile should be. Luffy walked ahead of them, his fists already clenched, his foot tapping impatiently on the pavement as if the city itself was slowing them down. Zoro held his swords at the ready, Sanji calmly adjusted his tie, and Usopp, despite his nervous expression, followed behind the others, clutching his sling. Naruto could feel the tension radiating from each of them. He knew that this battle would be more than just a confrontation with an enemy, but a test of their strength. As they approached the central square, they were met by soldiers loyal to Crocodile. They had blocked the streets with massive barricades and were preparing for battle. Luffy didn't wait. He rushed forward, his rubber fist whistling through the air and crashing into the shield of one of the soldiers, shattering it into pieces. Naruto, inspired by his impulse, raised his hands. The air around him became damp, and then a powerful stream of water formed, which he directed at the barricade. Wood and sand washed away, opening the way for the team. "Stay close to us," Zoro shouted, drawing his swords and engaging the group of enemies. His movements were fast, and every strike hit its target. Naruto watched him with respect, but soon his attention turned to his opponent. One of the soldiers rushed at him with a spear. Naruto dodged it and then created a water blade that easily cut the spear shaft. The soldier staggered back, but Naruto didn't let him get away. He created a small water vortex that knocked the enemy to the ground. Vivi and Nami hid around the corner of the building, keeping an eye on the situation. Vivi held a map of the city in her hands, trying to figure out how to get to the palace faster. "We can't stop," she said, her voice full of determination. "If we slow down, Crocodile will have time to complete his plan." Luffy, hearing her, shouted loudly, "Don't worry. We'll get through anyone who gets in our way." His words inspired everyone, and the team moved forward. With each step they encountered new enemies, but no one stopped. Naruto felt his powers becoming part of the team, and this gave him confidence. They reached the square in front of the palace, where they were met by an even larger group of soldiers. This was the last obstacle before meeting Crocodile. Naruto, without thinking, created a huge water shield, which protected them from the first attacks. "Come on, we can do this," he shouted, directing a stream of water at his enemies. His power was especially effective against sand barricades, which dissolved under the force of the water. Zoro and Sanji continued to fight with unflagging determination, and Luffy charged forward, making his way to the palace. Naruto, seeing this, focused all his energy on protecting the crew, creating barriers and distracting the enemies. Finally, when the area was cleared, they stood before the entrance to the palace. Vivi stopped, her gaze fixed on the massive doors. "There he is," she said. "Crocodile. We have to stop him." Luffy stepped forward, but was stopped by Naruto. "Let me help," he said. "If Crocodile is really that strong, we should work together." Luffy nodded and the two of them pushed the doors open, walking inside. Crocodile stood in the center of the throne room, his arms crossed over his chest and a smug grin on his face. "You've finally arrived," he said. "But that won't change anything. I've already won." Luffy didn't wait. He charged at Crocodile, but his attacks passed through the sand body. Naruto realized that normal attacks wouldn't work against such an enemy. He raised his hand and a stream of water appeared out of thin air, which he directed at Crocodile. "You think water can stop me?" Crocodile chuckled, but his confidence wavered as his sandy body began to get wet and lose shape. "Come on, Naruto!" Luffy shouted, seeing the water weakening the enemy. Naruto concentrated, creating a water armor around himself. His movements became faster, and his attacks became more precise. He sent a powerful stream of water straight at Crocodile, forcing him to retreat. "You are strong," Crocodile admitted, his face twisted in anger. "But it is not enough." Their battle continued. Crocodile raised sand walls and sent them towards Naruto, but Naruto defended himself with his water shields. Finally, using all his power, Naruto created a giant water vortex that enveloped Crocodile and took away his ability to control sand. Luffy took advantage of the moment. He rushed forward and delivered his most powerful blow, sending Crocodile flying into the wall. The enemy was defeated. When the fight was over, Vivi walked into the hall, her eyes filling with tears as she saw that Crocodile was no longer a threat. "You did it," she said, her voice shaking. "You saved Arabasta." Naruto looked at his new friends and smiled. He knew he had found his place among them. Together, they were unstoppable. Chapter 20, Alliance with Ace. Albarna had not yet recovered from the battle, when a new guest appeared on the horizon. A tall guy with black hair, a cheerful smile and a strange hat on his head confidently walked through the streets of the city, despite the chaos around him. It was Ace, Luffy's older brother. He moved as if nothing could stop him, and people parted for him, even though they could not understand who he was. His demeanor inspired confidence, but did not inspire fear. Luffy noticed him first and immediately yelled across the street, "Ace!" His voice made everyone turn around, including Naruto, who had just managed to rest after the battle. "Luffy!" Ace responded happily, walking towards his brother. They met in a tight embrace, as if they hadn't seen each other in years. Ace looked at the crew with interest, and then his gaze lingered on Naruto. "Who is this?" he asked, nodding towards the stranger. "That's Naruto," Luffy said enthusiastically. "He helped us defeat Crocodile. He's cool too." Naruto felt a little embarrassed, but tried to act confident. He stepped forward, extended his hand and said, "My name is Naruto. Nice to meet you." Ace shook his hand, but his eyes were thoughtful. "You don't look like a normal person. What is this power you wield?" "It's a devil fruit," Naruto simply replied. "Mizu Mizu no Mi." I can control water. Ace raised an eyebrow, clearly intrigued. Water? That's interesting. You don't seem like the type to just use your power. You look like you understand it. Naruto smiled slightly. I'm still learning. But if you need to prove what I'm capable of, I'm ready to show you. Ace grinned, his eyes sparkling with excitement. How about some training? I want to see what you can do. Luffy immediately jumped up in joy. Oh, this will be fun. Let's see. Ace turned to Naruto. Are you ready? Just a warning, I'm not going to hold back. Don't underestimate me, Naruto replied, his voice full of confidence. They chose an open area near the city so as not to cause any damage to people or buildings. Luffy and the crew settled on a nearby hill, watching what was happening. Ace activated his powers first. A huge stream of fire erupted around him, and the air around him became warmer. Naruto did not retreat. He raised his hand, and water appeared from the air, swirling around him, creating a protective barrier. Interesting, Ace said, charging forward. His fire attacks were fast and powerful, but Naruto used his water to deflect them. Every time the flames touched the water, the air filled with steam, making visibility almost zero. You're not as simple as you seem, Ace admitted, taking a step back. You too, Naruto replied, directing a stream of water towards him. Ace dodged, but the water still grazed his arm. He felt his fire begin to weaken where the water had penetrated his skin. It made him tense up. You are indeed strong, he said, but his voice was full of respect. But let's see how long you can hold out. Their fight continued, Ace creating huge pillars of fire and Naruto responding with powerful vortexes of water. Each of them gave it their all, but the fight was less a battle and more an exchange of respect and testing of each other. When they were both tired, Ace dropped his hands and laughed. You impressed me. Few can last this long against me. Naruto smiled, wiping the sweat from his forehead. You're no slouch either. But I feel like I can learn a lot from you. Ace nodded. You and I are alike. We have power, but it's how we use it that matters. If you're ready, I can help you understand it better. Luffy couldn't help but shout, that was awesome. You both are so strong. The Straw Hat team also expressed their approval. Nami, looking at Naruto with a grin, said, now we are sure that you are part of our team. Ace and Naruto sat down on the ground to rest for a while. They started discussing their abilities, sharing stories and experiences. Ace talked about his travels, and Naruto talked about how he ended up in this world. Ace listened carefully, and then said, you've been through a lot. But I can see that you haven't broken down. That makes you strong. Naruto felt warmth from these words. He was pleased that someone saw him as a person, not just a power. He realized that Ace could become not only a trainer for him, but also a friend. As the sun began to set, Ace stood up and extended his hand to Naruto. Let's do it this way, if we get a chance, you and I will have a rematch. Until then, thanks for the fight. Naruto shook his hand. I'll wait. And I promise I'll become even stronger. Ace turned to Luffy and added, brother, you've surrounded yourself with good people. Take care of them. Luffy just chuckled. We're always together. We're family. Naruto looked at the scene and realized that he had found something more than a team. He had found people he was willing to go to the end with. As silence fell over Albarna after the fierce battle, the city began to recover. The broken streets were a reminder of the recent chaos, but people were already emerging from their hiding places. The defeated crocodile was handed over to the royal guards, and King Cobra, Vivi's father, returned to the throne. Everyone now knew that the real enemy had been defeated. The Straw Hats and Naruto gathered in the great hall of the palace, where the king was waiting for them. Vivi stood next to her father, her face glowing with gratitude. You saved our country, King Cobra said to Luffy and his friends. Without you, we would have lost everything. I am forever in your debt. Luffy, as always, just smiled, rubbing the back of his head. You're welcome. It was fun. Zoro, standing nearby, chuckled, everything is fun for you, even when we almost died. Naruto watched this scene with a small smile. He felt proud that he was able to contribute. He felt like he was truly a part of something important. But inside, he still had questions. He couldn't figure out what was next for him. He had found friends, but his own path was not yet clear. The king turned to Naruto. Young man, your power is unique. Without it, we might have lost this battle. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Naruto bowed. I'm glad I could help. But it's not just me. Without this team, I couldn't have done it. Vivi walked up to Naruto and extended her hand. You've become our friend. If you ever need help, you can always come back here. Naruto squeezed her hand and nodded. Thank you. And if you need help again, call me. Once the formalities were completed, the crew gathered on the ship, preparing to sail. Ace, who had decided to stay with them for the time being, sat on the deck, enjoying the sea breeze. He watched Naruto, who stood at the side, looking at the waves. Are you thinking about something important? Ace asked, coming closer. I'm just trying to figure out what to do next, Naruto replied, not taking his eyes off the water. I've made friends, but my path is still unclear. Ace chuckled. The paths are rarely clear. But you've already taken the first step. You're protecting what's important to you, and that's what matters. Naruto nodded. These words filled him with confidence. He didn't know where his journey would lead, but now he knew that he was not alone. As the ship sailed away from the shores of Arabasta, the Straw Hat crew began sharing their thoughts on what had happened. Luffy was full of energy, talking about how awesome it was to defeat Crocodile. Usopp, of course, was exaggerating a bit, talking about how he single-handedly defeated dozens of enemies. Nami smiled softly at the scene, and Zoro and Sanji argued over who contributed more to the victory. Naruto sat next to Chopper, who was treating his minor wounds after the battle. Chopper was prattling on about how much he admired Naruto's water abilities. You can really control water the way you want? Chopper asked, fascinated by his stories. Almost, Naruto replied. I'm still learning. Sometimes I feel like the water itself is telling me what to do. Chopper thought about it. It sounds like your power isn't just tied to your fruit, but to you as well. Have you considered that it's part of something bigger? Naruto nodded. Yeah, I feel it. But I don't know what it is yet. Ace, hearing their conversation, came closer. It will come with time. The main thing is that you are already doing everything you can. The rest will find you. As the days passed, the crew moved further and further away from Arabasta. Everyone did their own thing. Luffy ate, Zoro trained, Nami made maps, and Naruto trained more with Ace. Their battles on the deck became a regular occurrence, and each time they caught the crew's attention. You're getting better, Ace said after one of their matches. Your attacks are faster, and your defense is stronger. But remember, strength isn't just about punching. It's how you use it to protect what's important. Those words stuck with Naruto. He knew that his power wasn't just a weapon. It was a tool that he had to use wisely. One evening, when the sea was calm and the crew was gathered on deck to enjoy dinner, Naruto sensed something unusual. He walked over to the side and saw the water around the ship begin to glow with a faint blue light. What is this? He asked, attracting the attention of the others. Nami walked up to him and frowned. I've seen this phenomenon before. But it's strange. It doesn't usually appear this far from the islands. Ace came over as well, his face becoming serious. It might have something to do with your power. Do you feel anything? Naruto closed his eyes and tried to concentrate. He felt a faint vibration, as if the water was trying to tell him something. It was a strange feeling, but he knew it was a sign. Something was waiting for them ahead. The next day, they reached a small island that was not marked on the maps. It was covered in dense forests, and in the center stood strange ruins. Naruto felt that this place was connected to his power. The team decided to explore the island. As they entered the ruins, Naruto felt the air become thick and a low humming sound could be heard around him. The place seemed alive. There were images on the walls that resembled the water symbols he had seen before. "This looks like a place where your power might mean something," Robin said, studying the symbols closely. "Maybe it has something to do with where your fruit came from." Ace and Luffy were prepared for any threat, and Zoro and Sanji had their weapons at the ready. But Naruto felt that this place was not hostile. It was a test. They reached the center of the ruins, where a large water reservoir was located. Naruto walked closer and the water began to move, as if welcoming him. He put his hand in the reservoir and felt a powerful flow of energy. "This looks like what was waiting for you," Ace said, standing next to him. Naruto concentrated, and the water rose up, surrounding him. He felt his power grow stronger, his connection with the water deepening. This wasn't just training, this was a realization. When it was all over, Naruto turned to his friends. He knew he had become stronger. Now he was ready for new adventures with the Straw Hats and Ace. Arc 4, The Straw Hat Crew and the Great Line. The Straw Hat ship sailed steadily along the Great Line. The crew, strengthened by Naruto and Ace, seemed to have gained new energy. Every day was filled with laughter, training, and preparations for the next adventure. The crew felt stronger after the battle in Arabasta, but no one forgot that even greater challenges lay ahead. Naruto stood on the deck, looking out at the endless sea. His thoughts returned to the symbols he had seen in the ruins on the mysterious island. His connection with the water had deepened, but with it came new questions. He felt that this journey was not just a way to explore the world, but also an opportunity to uncover the mysteries that surrounded it. One clear day, Nami frowned as she looked at the map. "We're approaching an unknown island," she said, pointing to a spot on her map. "There are no marks here, but the weather around here is starting to change. Perhaps this is one of the anomalous places of the Great Line." "Ooh, that sounds interesting," Luffy exclaimed when he heard Nami's words. "We should definitely go there." "Sometimes I think you're looking for trouble," she muttered, but no one was listening anymore. The ship approached an island surrounded by thick fog. It was covered in dense forests, and high mountains could be seen in the distance. The island looked mysterious, and the crew decided to explore it. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Sanji, Chopper, Robin, Naruto, and Ace went to dry land, leaving Usopp on the ship. As they entered the forest, the atmosphere changed. The silence was almost palpable, and every step echoed. Naruto felt the air become damp, and the water in his body seemed to respond to something around him. "This forest is strange," he said, looking around. "It seems as if it is alive." Robin studied the ancient symbols on the trees, and Zoro was already preparing for a possible threat. Suddenly, a strange sound came from the trees, and several people came out of the shadows. They were dressed in simple clothes, but their faces were covered with masks. "Who are you?" one of them asked, his voice deep and wary. "We're just exploring," Luffy replied with a smile. "Who are you?" "This is our land," said another man. "You have broken our laws, and now you must prove that you are worthy of being here." Suddenly, more people appeared from the forest, and Naruto and his crew were surrounded. These were not ordinary people. Their movements were fast and their blows were strong. The fight began. Zoro and Sanji entered the battle, showing off their skills, and Luffy, as always, rushed forward. Naruto used his abilities to protect Robin. He created water shields that repelled attacks and sent powerful streams of water to knock down opponents. But even despite this, the enemies were strong. Their speed and coordination forced the team to retreat. "They're too fast," Ace said, throwing fire attacks. "But that doesn't mean we'll lose." The battle continued until one of the group's leaders raised his hand, stopping everyone. "That's enough," he said. "You've proven yourself worthy of conversation. Follow us." The team, exhausted but intrigued, followed them deeper into the forest. There, behind the thick trees, a small settlement was discovered. The people here lived in harmony with nature, and in the center of the settlement there was a huge water reservoir. The village elder came out to meet them. His face was covered in tattoos and his eyes were wise. He studied everyone carefully, but his gaze lingered on Naruto. "You are not of this world," he said, looking straight at him. Naruto froze. "Yes, that's true. But how do you know?" "Your power," the elder said. "It is unique. It is not simply part of this world. You are connected to the water in a way that others are not. This island has responded to you. You must know that this place holds secrets that can help you understand who you are." Naruto felt his heart beat faster. He hadn't expected to hear such words, but now he knew that his presence here was not a coincidence. The elder revealed that the island was a place of power, where the water was alive. He offered Naruto a test that would help him discover the true nature of his abilities. The Straw Hats supported his decision, and Naruto accepted. The test consisted of 3 stages. The first stage was to control the powerful flow of water that was trying to escape from the tank. Naruto concentrated, feeling the water become a part of him. He used all his strength and was finally able to calm the flow. The second stage was a test of endurance. Naruto found himself in a water bubble that was pressing on him from all sides. It wasn't just a physical test, but also a test of his spirit. He remembered everything he had been through and used his determination to endure. The third stage was the most difficult. Naruto had to fight the water entity that guarded the island's secrets. It was a creature made of pure water, and it attacked mercilessly. Naruto used all his skills to win, and was finally able to subdue the creature's power. When the test was over, the water in the tank began to glow. The elder approached Naruto and said, "You are ready now. You have found the balance between your power and your soul. Use this knowledge wisely." The crew returned to the ship with a new respect for Naruto. He felt stronger and more confident. He was now ready for whatever might lie ahead. The Straw Hats' ship left the mysterious island, and the crew once again headed out into the vast waters of the Great Line. Naruto felt different as he stood on the deck. After his ordeal on the island, his connection with the water had deepened, as if he had become part of the ocean itself. His mind was focused on the new sensations, and he felt the power within him continue to grow. Luffy, as usual, was running around the deck, waving his arms and discussing his plans for the future. "We must find more adventures," he shouted, jumping up and down in excitement. Naruto chuckled at his seemingly never-ending energy. On the third day after setting sail, Nami raised the alarm. She stood on the observation deck and stared into the distance. "A ship. It's heading straight for us, and it looks like it's looking for trouble." The crew quickly gathered on deck and armed themselves. A few minutes later, a huge warship with black sails appeared on the horizon. The flag depicted a skull with 3 swords, symbolizing one of the most famous pirate groups on the Great Line. "This is the pirate crew, Fangs of the Sea," Robin said, her voice calm but serious. "They are known for their cruelty. Their captain is Jared, Sea Wolf. Looks like this is going to be fun," Luffy said with a smile as he prepared for battle. The ships met on the open sea, and the battle began instantly. The fangs of the sea pirates were well prepared. Their artillery began to fire at the Straw Hat's ship. Usopp quickly took up position, firing his slingshot at the enemy to throw off their aim. Zoro and Sanji jumped onto the enemy ship, starting a battle on the deck. Zoro, as always, confidently slashed at his enemies with his swords, and Sanji acted with grace, sending his opponents flying into the sea with his powerful kicks. Naruto, realizing that his abilities could be useful in this situation, created a water shield around the ship, protecting it from the incoming projectiles. He then focused and directed a powerful stream of water at the enemy cannons, drowning them and rendering them useless. "Who is this?" one of the enemies shouted as he saw Naruto using his powers. "It doesn't matter who he is, just kill him," shouted another, rushing to attack. But Naruto was ready. He used his abilities to create water blades that easily deflected the enemy's blows. His movements were fast and sure, and the power of water gave him an advantage. Meanwhile, Ace, who remained on the Straw Hat's ship, used his fire powers to protect the crew. His attacks were powerful, but he was careful not to hit his friends. Captain Jared himself appeared in the center of the battle. His height and powerful frame were intimidating, and his weapon, a massive trident, shone in the sunlight. He looked at Naruto, and his eyes narrowed. "You're the reason my artillery is useless," he said, pointing his trident at Naruto. "Let's see what you can do against me." Naruto didn't back down. He concentrated, and the water around him began to swirl, creating a protective barrier. Jared attacked, but Naruto confidently dodged, directing his water attacks straight at him. Their fight was fierce. Jared's trident easily pierced the water barriers, but Naruto responded with powerful streams of water that knocked the captain off his feet. They both gave it their all. As the fight reached its peak, Naruto felt his strength begin to weaken. Jared took advantage of this and delivered a powerful blow with his trident, which broke through the water barrier and sent Naruto flying backwards. "You are strong, but not strong enough," Jared said, raising his trident for the final blow. But at that moment, Luffy, noticing that Naruto was in danger, intervened. His rubbery hand reached across the deck, grabbing Jared by the shoulder and throwing him back. "Naruto is my friend and I won't let you touch him," Luffy shouted, his voice full of determination. Naruto stood up despite the pain. He felt like he couldn't give up. Concentrating, he created a giant vortex of water that enveloped Jared. The water made the captain unable to move, and Luffy took advantage of this to deliver the finishing blow. When the battle was over, the crew of the Fangs of the Sea surrendered. Their ship was badly damaged and they were no longer a threat. The Straw Hat crew, though exhausted, celebrated their victory. "You did great," Luffy said, patting Naruto on the back. "We couldn't have done it without you." "Thank you," Naruto replied, feeling his strength returning. He knew he still had a lot to learn, but now he knew he could always count on his friends. The Straw Hat's ship, having recovered from its encounter with the Fangs of the Sea pirates, continued its journey along the Great Line. The crew enjoyed the calm seas, but everyone knew that this calm would not last long. Peace was rare on the Great Line, and every new mile could bring both unexpected adventures and deadly dangers. Naruto stood at the side of the boat, watching the water. After the recent battle, he felt like his connection with the ocean had grown stronger. Not only did he control the water, he could feel it, as if it had become an extension of his being. But what did that mean? He was still searching for answers. Luffy, as usual, interrupted his thoughts with his loud voice, "Naruto. Come here. We've come up with a new plan for dinner." Naruto turned around to see Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper fiddling with some strange ingredients. "What kind of plan is this?" he asked incredulously. "We're going to try making a giant sandwich," Usopp said proudly. "You like food, right? Well, let's see what you can come up with," Naruto replied, smiling. He already knew that any idea the three of them came up with would either end in disaster or unexpected success. Nami stood next to Zoro, watching the horizon. "We're approaching a strange area," she said, checking the map. "The maps here say, Giant Shadow Sea. They say strange creatures live there. Is this another death trap?" Zoro muttered, shifting his swords. "Looks like you're leading us to a place where we can die again." "If you don't like it, you can stay on the ship," Nami retorted. "But I think Luffy will decide to move on as usual." "Keep going," Luffy confirmed, hearing their conversation. He raised his hands in the air. "We have to find out what those shadows are." "Great," Zoro sighed, looking at the horizon. "I just hope we don't end up in some swamp again." As the ship approached the designated location, the crew began to notice strange things. The shadows of huge creatures were moving underwater, but they could not figure out who or what was creating them. The water around them became turbid, and the atmosphere became tense. Everyone was on guard. "This is a bad place," Nami said, her voice full of worry. "We have to be careful." "Or fun," Luffy exclaimed, his enthusiasm as infectious as ever. Suddenly the ship began to rock. A huge whirlpool appeared right in front of them, and from it rose a huge creature. It was a giant sea serpent, its body glistening in the sun, and its eyes glowing with fury. "What the hell is this?" Usopp screamed, grabbing the mast. "It looks like it's one of those shadows," Zoro said calmly, drawing his swords. The creature attacked the ship, trying to crush it with its powerful jaws. Naruto, realizing that this was their main threat, focused. He created a water shield around the ship, protecting it from the first blow. "I'll distract him," Naruto shouted and jumped overboard. Water surrounded his body, as if protecting him. Naruto directed a powerful stream straight into the snake's eyes, blinding it for a moment. The creature screamed, and the water around them began to churn. On the deck, Zoro and Sanji prepared to attack. Zoro went to the right flank to cut off part of the snake's body, and Sanji jumped into the air, trying to distract its attention with his powerful blows. "Ace, we need backup," Robin shouted as she watched the fight. Ace, who had been standing quietly by the side of the boat until now, finally intervened. His fire attack hit the snake directly, creating a massive explosion that sent it flying backwards. The battle continued. Naruto felt his strength begin to weaken, but he knew he couldn't stop. He created a giant vortex of water that surrounded the snake, holding it in one place. "Luffy, your turn," he shouted, using the last of his strength to hold back the whirlwind. Luffy, gritting his teeth, jumped into the air. His arms stretched out for tens of meters, and he delivered a powerful blow straight to the snake's head. The creature fell into the water, creating huge waves that almost capsized the ship. When the fight was over, the crew gathered on deck. Everyone was exhausted, but satisfied. The creature was no longer a threat, and the ship was able to continue on its way. "That was awesome," Luffy exclaimed, rubbing his arm. "Naruto, you're really strong." "I couldn't have done it without you," Naruto replied, his voice full of gratitude. He felt like he was even closer to this team. Nami smiled as she looked at him. "You prove that we made the right choice by taking you with us." Ace, standing to the side, said, "You're getting stronger every day. But remember, there are more challenges ahead." Naruto nodded. He knew that this journey was not just an adventure, but a real test for him. And he was ready for what was waiting for them ahead. A new island appeared on the horizon, surrounded by thick fog. Its outlines were barely visible behind the gray haze, but even from a distance it looked gloomy and mysterious. Enormous rocks, reminiscent of the teeth of a giant creature, towered over the water, and the sounds of birdsong could be heard even through the roar of the waves. "This place is called the Island of Dead Captains," Robin said, studying the old map carefully. Her voice was calm, but there was an underlying worry in it. They say that entire crews disappear here, and ships break apart as if they were being torn apart by invisible hands. That sounds cool. Luffy was fired up with the idea, as always, ignoring the warnings. We should go there. You're looking for trouble again, Nami muttered, holding onto the ship's steering wheel. But we'll still end up there even if I say no, right? Yes. Luffy confirmed happily, his energy contagious. The ship approached the shore, and the crew prepared to disembark. The fog was so thick that they could barely see each other. Every step was like stepping into the unknown. The ground underfoot was soft as a sponge, and the air was filled with the strange smell of rotting wood. I don't like this place, Zoro said, tightening his grip on his sword. It's like it's alive. We have to be careful, Naruto added, feeling a strange vibration in the water underground. Something is definitely wrong here. The team moved forward until they came across ruins that looked ancient. The walls were covered in images that resembled battle scenes. In the center of the ruins stood a huge stone altar, and on it lay a sword that glowed with a faint blue light. This is Roxel's sword, Robin said, her voice almost a whisper. It belonged to one of the legendary captains who disappeared here centuries ago. It is said that whoever touches it will awaken the spirits of this place. That sounds like a challenge. Luffy exclaimed as he walked towards the altar. Stop! Nami shouted, but Luffy had already grabbed the sword. The moment Luffy touched the sword, the air around them changed. The fog began to move as if alive, and figures began to emerge from it. They were ghostly images, the shadows of former captains and their crews. They surrounded the crew, their eyes glowing with a cold light. You have disturbed the peace of this place, said one of the ghosts, his voice deep and ominous. Now you must prove yourself worthy of leaving. We're ready. Luffy shouted, getting into a fighting stance. Speak for yourself, Usopp muttered, hiding behind a nearby rock. The fight began suddenly. The ghosts were incredibly fast, their movements were almost imperceptible. Zoro and Sanji fought them on the ground, Luffy tried to parry their blows with his rubber hand, and Naruto used his water powers to protect the crew. They're not tangible, Naruto said as his attack passed through one of the ghosts. But water makes them slow down. That's good to know, Zoro replied, directing his attacks towards the areas where Naruto had created water vortexes. Robin used her powers to grab the ghosts, and Nami created lightning to disperse them. However, the ghosts did not stop, and their numbers only seemed to increase. At some point, the spirit that was keeping the crew under control stepped forward. He was taller than the others, and in his hands was shining the very sword that Luffy had pulled out of the altar. You cannot leave until you prove your strength, he said, pointing his sword at the team. Then try to stop us. Luffy shouted, rushing to attack. The fight with the spirit was incredibly difficult. His sword could cut through the air, creating powerful waves that pushed everyone back. Naruto concentrated and created a giant water vortex to keep the spirit in one place. Luffy, come on, he shouted, sending out a stream of water to distract the spirit. Luffy, using the moment, gathered all his strength and delivered a powerful blow. The sword fell from the spirit's hands, and its form began to dissolve. When the battle was over, the fog around them began to clear. The ghosts disappeared and all was quiet. The team stood at the altar, exhausted but satisfied with their victory. That was crazy, Usopp said as he fell to the ground. Let's not touch the weird swords anymore. Agreed, Zoro muttered, putting away his swords. Robin walked up to the altar and carefully placed the sword back in its place. We shouldn't take what belongs here. You're right, Naruto said, looking at the ruins. These spirits are protecting their land. We must respect that. When the team returned to the ship, they felt like they had passed another major test. Each of them had become stronger, and their bond with each other had only grown stronger. Naruto felt like he was becoming more and more a part of this team with each passing day. "What awaits us next?" he asked, looking at the horizon. "Whatever it is," Luffy replied with a wide grin, "we can handle it together." The Straw Hat's ship sailed steadily along the Great Line. After the events on the Island of Dead Captains, the crew felt that with each new trial they became stronger and more united. Naruto, looking at the horizon, felt a strange anticipation. The ocean seemed calm, but his intuition said otherwise. Nami stood at the helm, watching the weather change carefully. "Something's wrong here," she said, frowning. "We're approaching a strange region. The wind is changing, and the water is unusually warm." "What does this mean?" Usopp asked, already starting to panic. "Are we going to run into a giant monster again?" "Perhaps," Robin replied, studying an old map. "These waters are known as the Storm Trap. Unusual weather events often occur here, and not all ships return." "Oh, that sounds interesting," Luffy exclaimed, smiling. "We should check this place out." "Of course you think so," Nami sighed. "But if we end up trapped, it'll be on your conscience." The ship entered an area where the sky began to darken. Storm clouds quickly covered the horizon, and loud peals of thunder began to be heard from all sides. The water around began to boil, as if an invisible force controlled the ocean. Everyone waited tensely for what would happen next. "Hang on!" Nami shouted as the first bolt of lightning struck the water near the ship. The wave that followed the bolt nearly knocked Usopp overboard, but Chopper caught him just in time. "What was that?" Usopp screamed, his eyes full of horror. "This isn't a normal storm," Naruto said as he looked at the flashes of lightning. "I feel like there's something behind this." A huge figure appeared on the horizon. It was a giant whirlwind, but inside it were glowing lights that resembled eyes. The whirlwind began to approach the ship, sucking in everything in its path. "What is this, a living whirlpool?" Zoro shouted, drawing his swords. "It looks like it," Robin said calmly, though her voice betrayed a slight note of alarm. Naruto walked to the front of the ship, his eyes focused and his hands raised. He felt the water around him respond to his presence. "I'll try to stop him," he said, concentrating. Naruto created a huge water barrier to protect the ship. The vortex seemed to slow down, but then it released a powerful torrent that broke through the barrier. The wave hit the ship, causing everyone to cling to anything they could get their hands on. "It's not working," Sanji shouted, dodging a falling piece of debris. "We need to find its source," Ace said, raising his hand. His fire attacks tore apart parts of the vortex, but it had little effect. Robin pointed to the center of the vortex. "There's something there. That's probably what's controlling it." "Okay then, I'll handle this," Luffy shouted, ready to charge forward. "Wait!" Naruto stopped him. "I can get there faster. If it involves water, I can handle it." Naruto jumped overboard, surrounding himself with water armor. The water around the vortex was so powerful that he was thrown from side to side, but he continued to move towards the center. When he reached the center, he saw something unusual, a huge crystal that was floating in the water mass and emitting a strange light. "So that's what this source is," he muttered, concentrating. Naruto extended his hands, directing the flow of water around the crystal, trying to neutralize its energy. The crystal began to vibrate, and the vortex grew stronger. Naruto felt his strength begin to fade, but he was not about to give up. "I won't let this destroy my friends," he shouted, focusing all his energy on destroying the crystal. On the ship, the crew watched as the vortex slowly began to disappear. The waves became smaller and smaller, and finally the storm completely stopped. The water calmed down, and sunlight appeared on the horizon again. "He did it," Nami said with relief. Naruto climbed aboard, his breathing heavy but a smile on his face. The crystal is destroyed. It's over. You were amazing. Luffy exclaimed, rushing to hug Naruto. You saved us all. That was cool, Zoro said, putting away his swords. But maybe next time we shouldn't go into places like that? The team laughed, feeling relieved after what they had been through. Naruto, despite his fatigue, felt proud. He knew that he had become an integral part of this team, and he was ready for new challenges. After the encounter with the mysterious vortex was over, the Straw Hat crew continued on their way. Each crew member felt relieved, but the fatigue from the ordeal still remained. They returned to their normal life on the ship. Luffy happily ate food, Zoro trained, and Nami and Robin discussed routes and maps. But in each of their hearts, there was a feeling that their journey on the Great Line was just beginning. Naruto spent more time on the deck, looking at the water. The recent events had awakened new thoughts in him. He felt more and more that the connection with the water was growing stronger, but with it came the realization that his journey was not only a path to discovering power, but also to find his own place in this world. One evening, when the sun was already setting below the horizon and the sky was turning crimson, the crew gathered on deck. The atmosphere was calm and everyone was enjoying a moment of relaxation. Hey, Naruto, Luffy said, turning to him. You're awesome. We couldn't have done it without you. Thanks. Naruto blushed slightly, but smiled. Thank you, Luffy. But it wasn't just me. We did it together. You were part of the team, Zoro said, crossing his arms. You proved that you could hold your own with us. And it wasn't easy, Sanji added, blowing smoke from his cigarette. But you made it. Not everyone can handle what we went through. Robin smiled and remarked, You are unique, Naruto. Your power is not just a weapon. It is something more. And I think you have only just begun to understand its true potential. Ace, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke up. You did it. But there are more challenges ahead. You must continue to become stronger. Not just for yourself, but for those around you. These words left Naruto with mixed feelings. He knew it was true. Every fight, every trial made him stronger, but he felt like his journey was far from over. The next day, the ship arrived at one of the small islands, where the crew decided to make a stop. It was a quiet and cozy port where they could replenish supplies and rest a little. Naruto, walking along the shore, thought about his next steps. He loved his new friends, but he felt that his path might lie in a different direction. When he returned to the ship, Luffy approached him. His smile was wide, but his eyes were serious. You're thinking of leaving, huh? He asked bluntly. Naruto was surprised, but he didn't deny it. Yes. I feel like I need to continue my journey. I want to learn more about my power and why I came to this world. Luffy nodded, his smile not fading. It's okay. But you can always come back. We're family. And if you need help, just say so. Luffy's words filled Naruto with warmth. He knew that he had found not only friends here, but something more. The next day, Naruto said goodbye to each member of the team. Nami gave him a small compass, saying, This will help you on your journey. But remember, the Great Line can be dangerous. Zoro just nodded, but his eyes said a lot. Sanji prepared a farewell meal for him, saying, Eat before you go. You haven't tried all my dishes yet. Chopper hugged him, and Usopp said, You were cool. But I'm still cooler. To which everyone just laughed. Ace walked Naruto to his boat. Remember, Naruto. You're part of something big. Never doubt yourself. As Naruto set sail, he felt a little sad, but also determined. He knew that this was not a farewell, but the beginning of a new phase of his journey. The great lineage was waiting for him, and he was ready to face everything it had to offer. He looked back and saw the Straw Hat crew waving at him. It was a moment he would remember forever. His heart was full of gratitude and warmth. He knew his story was just beginning. Naruto continued his journey along the Great Line. Leaving the Straw Hat crew behind, he moved forward to uncover the secrets of his power and understand why fate had brought him to this world. His small boat, gliding through the water, seemed fragile against the vast ocean, but he was determined. The first few days were quiet, but deep down Naruto felt that the calm would soon end. His thoughts returned to Ace's last words, "You are part of something big." Those words echoed in his head, making him wonder about his purpose. On the third day of sailing, Naruto noticed a dark shape on the horizon. It was an island, surrounded by thick fog. Its shape was strange, a high cliff, reminiscent of the claws of a giant creature, towered over the water. Rumors swirled around the island that it was home to an ancient artifact connected to the great ocean. "Looks like I have no choice," Naruto muttered as he steered the boat towards the shore. As he landed, the fog around him grew thicker. The ground beneath his feet was cold and damp, and the air was like the breath of an old forest. Naruto felt as if the water around the island was coming alive, reacting to his presence. He began to move deeper into the island, and soon an ancient temple opened up before him. Its walls were covered with symbols that seemed to move as he looked at them. In the center of the temple was a huge pool filled with glowing water. "This place is strange," he muttered, approaching cautiously. As he approached, the water in the pool began to vibrate. A figure made of water rose from it. It was the silhouette of a woman with long hair and eyes glowing blue. "You came for answers," she said. Her voice was soft but strong. "You are the one who connects worlds. But are you ready to know the truth?" "I'm ready," Naruto replied firmly. "I want to know why I'm here and what I need to do." The figure waved his hand, and images appeared before Naruto. He saw how the two worlds, his home world and the world of One Piece, were connected to each other by thin threads of energy. These threads created a balance between the forces of life and chaos. Naruto saw that his power was not just a gift, but the key to maintaining this balance. "You were chosen to protect the balance," the figure continued. "But there are those who wish to destroy it. Their goal is to destroy one of the worlds in order to gain absolute power." Naruto felt a chill of fear, but then his gaze became hard. "Who are they? And how can I stop them?" "They're already here," the figure replied. "Their leader is heading your way. You must be ready." At that moment, the temple began to shake. Naruto turned around and saw a crack appear in the wall. People in dark clothes came out of it. Their faces were hidden by masks, and in their hands they held strange weapons that glowed with a red light. "So there you are," one of them said, his voice cold and angry. "We've come for you, Ki. If you want me, you'll have to fight," Naruto said, getting into a fighting stance. The fight began suddenly. The enemies were strong, their weapons could even cut through the water Naruto used to defend himself. But he did not give up. He concentrated, strengthening his connection with the water. His attacks became faster and more accurate, but the enemies still came. "You don't understand anything," the group's leader said, his voice echoing throughout the temple. "You're just a tool. You'll never be able to stop us." "We'll see about that," Naruto replied, directing a powerful stream of water at the enemies. The battle was fierce, but at the most critical moment, Naruto felt his strength begin to fade. He closed his eyes, remembering his friends, Luffy, Zoro, Nami, everyone who believed in him. These memories gave him new energy. "I will not let you destroy this world," he shouted, creating a giant vortex of water. Its power surpassed anything he had known before. The vortex swallowed the enemies, leaving the temple in silence. When it was all over, the figure from the water appeared in front of Naruto again. "You have proven yourself worthy of your power," she said. "But your journey is not over. You must make a choice, stay in this world and protect it, or return home. Naruto froze. This was a choice he hadn't thought about before. He loved his friends from this world, but he also missed home. He knew the decision wouldn't be easy. Naruto stood in the center of the temple, his gaze fixed on the water figure that continued to stare at him calmly. Its words echoed in his mind, "Stay here or go home." It was a choice that could change everything, and not only his future depended on it, but the fate of two worlds. "You must decide, Naruto," the figure said, its voice soft but insistent. "Both worlds need you, but only you can choose where your true purpose lies." Naruto looked down. He remembered his friends from the shinobi world, Kakashi, Sakura, Sasuke. He missed them, he missed his home. But he also remembered Luffy, Nami, Zoro, Chopper and everyone he had been through so much with. Both worlds had become important to him, and choosing seemed impossible. "Why me?" Naruto asked quietly, looking at the water as if it could give him an answer. "Why did all this have to fall on me?" "Because you have a heart that can connect," the figure replied. "You are the one who understands the value of friendship, strength, and sacrifice. Only you can maintain balance." Naruto closed his eyes. He remembered every battle, every trial he had gone through. He wanted to believe that he could find the right solution, but doubts gnawed at him from the inside. Suddenly, the temple began to shake again. The water in the pool began to boil, and a rift appeared in the air, from which emerged the same leader of the enemies who had attacked him earlier. But now he was alone, and his power became even more terrifying. "You cannot escape your destiny, boy," he said, his voice full of contempt. "We are a force you cannot stop." Naruto stood up. He wasn't going to give up. His eyes lit up with determination, and the water around him began to move, creating shields and blades. "I won't let you destroy any of the worlds." The battle began. The enemy leader was incredibly strong. His attacks were fast, and the energy emanating from him disrupted the balance of the water, causing it to rush in different directions. Naruto tried his best to control his power, but the enemy seemed invulnerable. "You don't understand, Naruto," the enemy said, his voice full of malice. "These worlds are incompatible. One must perish so that the other can exist." "That's a lie," Naruto shouted, sending a stream of water straight into the center of the enemy. "Both worlds can live." "I know it." His attack hit its target, but the enemy only laughed. "You are too naive. The power you possess could destroy us both." Naruto concentrated. He realized that his power was not only a weapon, but also a key to understanding. He closed his eyes and let the water guide him. He felt it become a part of him, his thoughts connecting with its flow. "Water is life," he whispered. "And I am part of it." Naruto channeled all his power into the final blow. Water surrounded the enemy, sealing him in a giant ball of water. The energy inside the ball boiled, and with a powerful splash, the enemy disappeared, and the temple fell silent once more. The figure from the water appeared again. Her voice was soft and calm. "You have won. But the choice is still yours. You can stay here and protect this world, or go home." Naruto stood in silence, weighing his decision. His heart was torn between two worlds. He knew that choosing would mean saying goodbye to one of them. He began, his voice full of emotion. "I want to stay here. I've made friends who have become my family. This world needs me." The figure nodded. "Your choice is made. You are now the guardian of this world. Your strength will become its shield, and your soul its heart." Naruto felt the water around him envelop him in warmth. He knew he had made the right choice. When he left the temple, the sun was shining on the ocean again. His boat was waiting for him at the shore, and he knew that new adventures lay ahead. He was no longer alone. This world had become his home, and he was ready to protect it, no matter how hard it was. Naruto raised the sail and headed towards the horizon, full of determination. After making his decision, Naruto continued his journey, determined to protect this world and discover its secrets. The boat rocked gently on the waves, and the ocean seemed endless and silent, as if waiting for its new guardian to take action. Naruto felt the water around him become more responsive, as if acknowledging him as its chosen one. As he sailed towards the horizon, he thought about his friends. Luffy, Zoro, Nami, Robin, Sanji, Chopper, Usopp, they all left an indelible mark on his soul. Now, even though he was alone, he knew he would never be completely alone. Suddenly, his thoughts were interrupted by the sound of splashing water. Naruto became wary. Something strange appeared on the surface of the ocean, a huge water vortex, from which a massive silhouette rose. It was a giant aquatic beast, reminiscent of a dragon. Its eyes glowed blue, and its body shimmered as if it were made of pure energy. "Are you the keeper?" a deep voice echoed through the air. It was the dragon himself speaking. Naruto stood up, his gaze hard. "Yes. If you came to test me, go ahead. I won't back down." The dragon smirked. "You've proven your strength. But being a guardian isn't just about fighting. It's about understanding that the worlds are connected. Are you ready to hear the truth?" "I'm ready," Naruto replied, feeling excitement and curiosity intertwining within his soul. The dragon rose higher, its figure becoming even more grandiose. The water around them began to glow, and Naruto saw a vision. He saw how the two worlds, his home world and the world of One Piece, were connected by threads of energy. These threads were fragile, but strong, like a web that holds everything together. "These worlds should coexist," said the dragon. "But the balance has been disrupted. Your appearance here is a sign that the connection between the worlds has weakened. Those who desire power seek to break this connection by destroying one of the worlds." "Who are they?" Naruto asked, his voice firm. "And what should I do?" "You have already met their leader," the dragon replied. "But his fall does not mean the end of the threat. There are those who continue his work. They hide along the Great Line, in places where the energy of the world is especially strong. You must find them and restore balance." Naruto nodded. He knew his path would be difficult, but he was ready. "I will do it. I will not let anyone destroy this world." The dragon looked at him with respect. "You have not only strength, but also spirit. This makes you a true guardian. But remember, your strength is not only water. It is who you are. Faith, determination, and your friends, all this makes you stronger." With that, the dragon disappeared and the ocean became calm again. Naruto felt his connection with the water deepen even more. He knew that he was no longer just a devil fruit user. He was something more. Naruto's journey continued. He visited many islands, each with its own mysteries. On one of the islands, he met a group of people who worshipped the ocean as a living being. They immediately recognized Naruto as a guardian and told him that they had heard of strange phenomena at the other end of the Great Line. Naruto headed towards where his next challenge awaited him, feeling like every step brought him closer to solving the mystery and bringing true balance between the worlds. On the last leg of his journey, Naruto found himself in front of a huge water barrier that protected the entrance to an ancient temple. This barrier was filled with energy, and Naruto realized that he would have to use all of his strength to get through it. He concentrated, feeling the water respond to his call. The barrier began to part, opening a path for him. In the temple, he met those who were behind the destruction of the balance. It was a group of people obsessed with the thirst for power. They tried to use an ancient artifact to destroy the connection between the worlds. "Do you think you can stop us?" their leader asked, directing the artifact's energy at Naruto. "I don't think so," Naruto replied, his voice calm. "I know. The battle was fierce. Naruto used all his strength to fight his enemies. Water became his ally, responding to his every move. But the opponents were strong, and their powers surpassed anything he had seen before. As Naruto's strength began to wane, he closed his eyes and remembered his friends. He felt their support, even from a distance. It gave him a new boost of energy. "I won't let you destroy this world," he shouted, directing a powerful stream of water at the artifact. The energy collided, creating a bright flash of light. When the light dissipated, the enemies were defeated and the artifact was destroyed. The temple began to collapse, but Naruto managed to escape. He stood on the shore, watching the sunrise. Balance was restored. Naruto knew that his journey was not over yet. He decided to stay in this world to protect it. He felt that he had found his place and was ready for the new challenges that lay ahead. Epilogue. The sea breeze gently swayed the air, and the sun's rays played on the surface of the water, creating golden paths. Naruto stood on top of a cliff, overlooking the endless ocean. His gaze was directed into the distance, but his thoughts were hovering around what had happened. The water around him no longer seemed like just an element. It was alive, and he felt it like never before. After the final battle, life on the Great Line continued. Much had changed, but at the same time, everything remained in its place. The ocean, which had once been unknown and frightening to Naruto, had now become his home. Shortly after the events at the temple, Naruto visited an island where people who revered the ocean as a sacred place lived. They accepted him as their protector and told him that the waters around the world had become calmer and the strange phenomena that frightened sailors had ceased. "You have changed this world," said one of the elders. "The ocean is now in balance, but it is a fragile state. Your role is to maintain it." Naruto realized that his journey was not over. He would sail the Great Line, protecting this world from new threats. But now he knew that this was his path, and he was ready to follow it. A few months after his last battle, Naruto met the Straw Hat crew again. It was on one of the islands where they stopped to resupply. Luffy noticed him first and, as usual, shouted loudly, "Naruto! You're alive!" The team happily greeted their friend. They talked for a long time, sharing stories about their adventures. Naruto told them about his role as a guardian and how he now helps maintain peace on the ocean. "That sounds cool," Luffy said, beaming with delight. "But if you need help, call us." "Oh, and don't forget about your friends," Nami added with a smile. "We'll always be there for you, even if oceans separate us." Naruto was touched. These people had become his family, and he knew that despite the distance, their bond would never fade. In the evening, as the sun was setting, Naruto stood on the deck of his boat. He looked out at the ocean, but his thoughts were on the future. He knew that many challenges lay ahead, but now he was ready for them. "The world is a place where we can be happy," he said quietly to himself. "I will protect it so that everyone can find a home here." The ocean responded with a soft splash of water, as if agreeing with his words. Naruto raised his sail and headed towards the horizon, full of determination. His story continued, but now he knew that he was part of something bigger. The end of our story.